this really is a microcosm of Democrats. I'm arguing here for incremental change in the right direction versus no, this is not perfect and it's still immoral, so no change.
Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Wick TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And gang, we got a great show for you today. It should be fun. So, I guess to start, I'm just going to let Visora kind of introduce what she wants here.
Okay.
She talked to me in DMs earlier about wanting to do a show where she advocates that the government, through Medicare, Medicaid, some kind of socialist healthcare program, funds sex workers or compensates sex workers for their job, I guess, subsidizes them. But I'm going to let her explain it. I'm going to let her go first. It should be an interesting topic. It's not something I've thought of a lot. Quibbles here very disagrees with this. So it should be a fun discussion. Visora, open us up. What are your thoughts?
Cool.
Sell this to us.
Well,
Go
first
ahead.
of all, nice to meet you, Quibbles, as well as hello to everybody in your guys' chats. So my thoughts on this are pretty simple. Sex work is, when we talk about it, when we use the word sex work, we should start by first talking about what kind of society do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a society where people are vulnerable to violence, where people are censored, where people are criminalized, or do we want to live in a society that values safety, dignity, public health? Honestly, like for me, that it really just comes down to the moral decision of this is just better for people. Increases public health. This increases public safety. This reduces violence. This reduces rape, assault, etc. But just some actual statistic examples. In Rhode Island, from 2004 to 2009, there was a 31% reduction in rapes following the decriminalization of indoors sex work, brothels, basically. This was 824 fewer rapes in that time period. At that same time, there was a 39% reduction in cases of gonorrhea. The public health aspect of it is not just physical, it goes into the mental as well, but the physical can't be ignored because that 39% of gonorrhea isn't just in sex work. It's also in the people that, use them necessarily. In New Zealand, following the Prostitution Reform Act of 2003, this gave sex workers the ability to use law enforcement to report abusers, rapists, people that were stealing their wages without fear of repercussions. This also improved public safety. It increased public trust because there was significant decline in community complaints towards sex workers, especially street sex workers. Now, beyond that, there's also the idea that factoring in mental health on top of physical exponentially increases the benefits of something like this, because think about what mental health could mean. We're talking about isolation. We're talking about depression, suicidal people. We have a loneliness epidemic. We have men and women who are lonely, who don't socialize, who haven't felt intimacy with other human beings in a very long time. And this tends to result in violence. This results in, whether it's domestic violence, because this does also tie into domestic violence, but public terrorism, for example. People like Matt Berger, what was his name? The guy who did the bombing in Vegas. He had PTSD. He came, back from his deployment. He was still active military. The Trump Cybertruck bomber guy, can't remember his full name, but he was active military. He had PTSD. He talked to his girlfriend a week before this bombing, explaining how he felt, how lonely he was. They couldn't do anything about it because we don't teach men, especially young boys, that it's okay to be intimate. And when you say young boys in the context of we're talking about sex work, that does ring a few alarm bells. But I would say they don't need to be specifically sex workers. You can say, oh, like you have this very autistic child who can't touch anybody, can't have physical touch, can't hug their mom. So you can have a safe way of, I don't know, bring them to a clinic, and there's a technically sex worker, but they're not having sex with the kid. It's sessions of, hey, well, like, let's hold hands for a little bit. It's teaching people to be physically intimate in both a sexual context, but both in just a regular social context, hugging your friends. Just, I don't know, these things are normal to me, and it's maybe that's a cultural thing, because I am Turkish, but I grew up in America, and I've seen this. People, where they're talking about right now that it's gay to have sex with your wife if it's not for procreation. That's where the headspace of some of the, like, the incel community is, and these people are depressed, they're isolated, they're mentally ill, and they could benefit from something like this. And that's where I'm gonna leave it with that one.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. A lot of things we got brought up. I do want to focus
That's just
specifically for the
opening
debate
statement,
on basically the government funded sex workers for Medicare, Medicaid,
Mhm.
socialized healthcare. But all these things are worth touching on. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Quibbles, okay, Quibbles, who
Um,
is what? Just before you go, right? Quibbles is one of the more eloquent speakers that I've had, and I reached out to him because I trust him and I trust him to do a good job here. So thank you, Quibbles, for being here. I do appreciate you.
I have seen some of
Quibbles,
your
okay.
stuff.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So virtually all of what you just said was about um, the men's perspective, about the John's perspective, and about the impacts that it has on lonely men. So I think that there's sort of a couple of different questions that are part of this conversation. The first is the question of, like, is sex a necessity for a healthy life? And beyond that, is it medically beneficial potential without being a necessity? That's one part of the question. There's another question which is sort of built into your framework, which is, must the government pay for everything that's necessary for a healthy life? There's another question which is sort of about the prostitute side. It's a question of, like, is prostitution rape? Is being paid for access to your holes the only or the best option,
Sorry,
strictly
could
from
you
the
repeat that
prostituted
last
person's
bit?
perspective?
I didn't hear that. Could you repeat your last point? Sorry.
Yeah, is being paid for access to your holes the only and or best option, strictly from the prostituted person's perspective, setting aside the impact on the man? And then there's a dual question, which is sort of, is it in the benefit of the man who is purchasing access to those holes, or in this case, having paid for by the government access to those holes, in the case of a person who is not actually interested in having sex with them? So those are sort of a bunch of different questions. I want to touch a little bit before
I
we,
just
we
want to
get
add one
into it
thing
more.
there, because
Yeah.
it's not just state funded. I also think that private health insurance should cover this. I think that this should be included in all of
Okay.
healthcare, whether it's
Fine.
universal, Medicare,
Regardless.
Medicaid. That, yeah.
Yeah. So the question. So yes, there's a question of the governmental, but that's a different question. The question that I'm trying to set up there, which is a question of setting aside how it's paid for. Is it good for men to be having sex with women who don't want to have sex with them? Um, Now, I also want to touch before we start on this idea of both the Vegas bomber and also this idea of the autistic child. So I take issue with the idea of the autistic child who is being taught by a therapist to be able to deal with intimacy and be able to hug their own mother is sexual.
It doesn't
I
have
think that
to
there's a
be.
lot that is about, well, if I can finish, there's a lot about intimacy that I think is important and that we should be teaching people about. But I don't think that all intimacy is sexual intimacy. And I think that the most important intimacy is ultimately a non-sexual form of intimacy.
Hmm. I totally agree with you there.
Yeah.
So I guess to start, right, and this will be just a open back and forth, right? Just feel free to just jump in whenever's. Um, what are some of the potential benefits you see? Why, if someone is lonely, if there's a man who's lonely, right, who is feeling a lack of intimacy, why will sex work benefit that man? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I just want to respond to some of what Quibbles said, because it ties into why it benefits the
Means.
man, because it's not just about the man here. You said that most of what I said was just from the man's perspective. But all of this innately also benefits the women. The reduction in sexual assault, rape, 31% reduction, for example. The reduction in STIs by just the decriminalization, not even like adding it into that. All of this.
I just want to clarify, when you say it helps the women, do you mean the women whose holes are being purchased?
It helps
or do you mean the
everybody.
women whose holes are not being purchased?
It helps the entire community. This is a beneficial
So it
thing
helps
for everybody.
So hold on. Let's just okay. So you're saying that there are positive externalities associated with setting aside a certain subset of women to be chronically sexually violated
That is not
by
what I'm
people
saying.
that they don't actually want to have sex with.
That's not what I'm saying.
On behalf of other women?
So, no. First of all, let's take America for an example. The United States is a big country. We have various different laws. Let's take Rhode Island out of the picture, a state where sex work is entirely illegal. There are still sex workers that do this because they have no other option financially. First, just and foremost, the option to be able to do sex work is something that saves people's lives. It literally allows women to get out of abusive relationships, to escape danger. It is also not something that people only do because they have no other option. Some people like to just do sex work. Now, I'm not saying anyone should be, set aside and put into like a caste system. I don't want to create the escort class, but I do think that this is beneficial to an entire community if implemented in the correct way.
Okay.
There would need to be systems.
So I just want to separate out like the question of, is this good for the women who aren't having sex with the Johns that they don't want to have sex with? Hold on, let me frame the question.
You said separated out.
There's two questions here. One question is it good for upper middle class women who are not the ones who are in these positions, who are not actually having sex with these Johns who they don't want to have sex with? That's a separate question, though, than the question of, is it in the interest of the women themselves who are being chronically sexually used for the pleasure of people who don't care about their own pleasure?
I don't like the way that you're rhetoricizing that. It's chronically used. You're doing your job. It's just going to work.
Your job being, you are being sexually used by people who don't care about your sexual pleasure.
If you work in a factory, you're being physically used by people who don't care about your physical health.
I don't think that's a silly argument.
I think that's a silly argument to make because people enjoy having sex, and not necessarily that. Like, the sex workers don't necessarily not want to have sex with all of their jobs.
People enjoy. What do you mean by people enjoy having sex? What does that mean?
What I said. I'm not saying everyone enjoys all sex.
When you say people enjoy having sex,
I'm saying sex is a part of the human experience.
People enjoy no. There's a snug premise there. People enjoy having sex with people that they want to have sex with.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. People really don't enjoy having sex with people that they don't want to have sex with.
I know.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
And guess what?
So,
if you have a regulated system, let me finish. If you have a regulated system, then you get to, I don't know, have a website where you can go pick which one you want. They can decline, first of all. Secondly, on top of this, if the sex worker doesn't want to go and have sex with that person, they won't. Someone else will. You know what makes people happy? You know what gives people joy other than sex? Money. Being able to pay rent, for example. Being able to afford food. Being able to feed your kids. Being able to travel. Being able to live. These are important things.
Should I be able to pay to use other people's bodies in any way that I want?
If they consent to it, yeah.
Literally any way.
If they're consenting to it, then yes. I'm a libertarian socialist.
Someone is desperately impoverished. They're living on the street, and I want to pay to shit in their mouth.
That is shitty of you to do, but I think they should be allowed to say, no, you can do it and take your money. I think the person whose mouth
Why is it shitty of me to do?
Because you're in the position of power and you're abusing it. But this is a different context because we're not talking.
How am I abusing it?
Because you're the one that has the money and wants to shit in some poor person's
but
mouth in this case.
It's not abusive. Okay. Hold the phone.
Hold on. Both of you. Okay, you'll listen to me. Let's let Visora finish her framing of her position, and then you can respond to it. I have some questions
too. These are two
because
entirely different
go ahead.
Moral arguments that we're having. You're having the moral argument of whether it's whether it's oppressive of the to the women to have this system. And I'm arguing that it is unoppressive if it's consensual and implemented correctly, and it would be oppressive to prevent it. Now, am I saying that this is a perfect system? Is it a silver bullet that solves everything? Fuck no. There's a lot of other issues that need to be worked on too. But I'm arguing here that just implementing this system would lead to a reduction in violence against all women, a reduction in...
Again, you're doing that. It's not you're again bringing up this thing, which is not about the people who are actually involved in the sex act.
You asked
you're talking
me two
about
questions.
You
said, one, is this good for upper middle class women? Two, is this good for the women that are doing the sex work? Yes is the answer to both. And beyond that,
so your
yes
answer,
is the answer
so I'm going to separate them out, though.
Can you
this question was about the
not?
shitting in the mouth. I'm asking specifically.
Go for it.
Okay, why am I a bad person for paying you to allow me to shit in your mouth? Why is that bad?
Because it's an entirely different moral framework. You
don't. Why is it bad?
Because you don't need to shit in someone's mouth.
Whereas I don't need to have sex with you.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of these men do, because otherwise they go and do mass shootings.
If I may,
take Elliot Rogers for
an
example.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, hold on.
No, hold on. Both of you stop, because now I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is sex, in your view, Visora, is sex necessary for a healthy life?
Absolutely.
Do you agree with that, or
I can't stop from killing people if I don't have sex? That's specifically the claim that you just made.
No, that's not the claim that I made. I said there are people who are isolated, depressed, and lonely that are radicalized, who get angry and blame women and then go kill people because of that.
Okay. Visora, I want specifically, will these people definitely go kill people unless they're able to use women's bodies when the women don't actually want to have sex with them and are only willing to do it if they are paid?
If they're being paid, they're consenting to it. It's not being...
Okay, if you're being paid to let me shit in your mouth, you're consenting to it. Why is it wrong?
Because there is a different moral framework between you wanting to shit in a poor person's mouth for fun and a healthcare system that may or may not prevent this guy from... Hold the fuck up. Let me fucking finish. Yeah. You want to prevent incels from doing mass shootings, but on top of this, you want to prevent these women from getting raped. You want to prevent women that aren't doing sex work from also getting raped. You want to prevent domestic violence. You want to prevent the spread of STDs.
You're just going on the same tirade.
Because you're ignoring every single actual point and bringing it to some random...
Hey, I love the energy, gang. I love the energy, but you gotta let her finish. You gotta let Quibbles. You can respond to it after. You gotta let her finish.
No, it's a very specific question that she's just obfuscating around. And it's very frustrating.
Point that out when it's your turn.
Ask one more time.
You haven't.
What's the question again?
Okay, the question is very simple. No, what is the moral distinction between having sex with someone who doesn't want to have sex with me, but is willing to have sex with me if I pay them, and shitting in someone's mouth who doesn't want me to shit in their mouth, but is willing to have me shit in their mouth if I pay them?
Because
why is that different?
Shitting in someone's mouth has no other repercussions on society or the community, whereas like you having sex with somebody, if you're lonely and mentally ill, does have benefits on society. That's why. It's because of the greater benefits.
There's no way that I'm mentally ill and have a gun and I'm like, listen, bud, I want to shit in people's mouths. And if I'm not allowed to shit in someone's mouth in the next 24 hours, I'm going to go kill people.
Do you think that's how this works?
That's never going to be a thing. That couldn't possibly conceptually happen.
Do you think that's how this works? Do you think that's how incels work? Do you think that's how Elliot
Rogers... I think that conceptually could happen.
I think what I've just described...
I think, Visora, I think what I've just described is someone who is obviously mentally ill. I think I've described someone who is obviously evil. I think I've described someone who's obviously a horrible person and probably belongs in jail. I also think that I have described someone that could conceptually exist in society. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
Okay, so if that person conceptually could exist in society, why is that person who could conceptually exist in society different than the person who could conceptually exist in society who demands they have sex with women who don't want to have sex with them?
No one's demanding this, A. B, they're not different. They're both mentally ill. One benefits from this, one doesn't. That's the thing.
Wait, why do you benefit from it? Why don't I benefit from it when I want to shit in someone's mouth? I really like watching people
because
be shat into.
you shitting in someone's mouth benefits you personally in this instance. It benefits the guy
Yep.
who's getting his mouth shat in because he gets paid personally, but it has no greater...
I don't think it's benefiting him.
Well,
to be
he's
clear.
getting paid. He's benefiting under the
I
system
don't
that
think
we
it's
have.
benefiting him.
No,
though.
obviously
I
it's
don't think it's
oppressive, and
benefiting
I
him.
think that it's bad, but I think he's getting something
Okay.
out of it regardless. It's not, you're not just using somebody non-consensually. They are agreeing. It's a different context. But the real difference here is the greater social outcomes that come from this. You shitting in this guy's mouth isn't changing anything in society. It's not helping other people. Whereas the
It's not supposed to.
availability of a doctor to prescribe sex work
Wait, why
to
are you
somebody...
getting in the way of? Why I don't understand what you're getting in the way of this.
I'm not
I
really.
want to shit in his
Go
mouth.
do it. Have fun.
I want to shit in his mouth, and he's willing to let me shit in his
Then
mouth.
do it.
And okay, so your answer is yes, I should do it.
Well, I'm saying it'd be
Your answer is
like
there's no
morally
moral
wrong of you,
implications.
but no, I'm saying it'd
Why
be
is it
wrong.
morally wrong?
I've just explained that about 7 times because
Okay.
it only benefits you personally.
We are
Okay.
sure.
Okay,
Hold on,
no,
we're looping.
okay,
We're
let
looping.
me
We're
lay it
looping. Oh
out.
my god!
Wait, can I lay it
Please.
out? Can I lay it out?
Sure,
Can you
please.
lay it out
I want,
quickly? Then we
I want
gotta
like a
move
minute
on.
and a half
We gotta
to lay it
address
out
a different
Please,
angle.
uninterrupted.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. The problem is that in both the case of me using someone's holes in a way that they don't want to but are willing to accept in exchange for money because they're desperately impoverished or otherwise desperate for money, in the same way that I'm doing that and they're willing to accept it, they're also willing to accept it in the case that I want to shit in their mouth, right? But both cases are strictly about me. I do not care about, or in fact, at some level, I do care about, and I'm enjoying the misery that I am placing upon the person whose mouth I'm shitting into, or the person whose holes I'm violating, right? That is the purpose. And so, in both cases, I am morally wrong to do so, quite obviously.
If that's your moral cause, then yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Okay, so, but I'm asking, that's like, those seem to me to be one-to-one. So parse
Quibbles,
the
can I
difference
ask you?
in my request.
I have a question for
Yeah.
you, Quibbles. Quibbles, do you think everyone who engages with a sex worker is doing it because they want to, that they get off and enjoy the misery of the sex worker? Do you think that's...
I don't think that every single one of them gets off sexually to the misery
or
of
enjoys it, or it's part of the experience?
But I think that they're all willing to accept the fact that they are fully aware that they cannot be aware of whether or not the person is comfortable in the environment.
Okay. Visora, this is a question for you, right? Do you think, right, if the health of men, right, if their mental health or whatever is reliant on regular or at least consistent access to sex, why stop at state-funded sex workers or having a medical professional? Why not simply have the state mandate that there are a certain amount, like each community, each town, each state has a certain amount of sex workers on hand to see to the needs of their populace?
Because that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the needs of, like, the sexual needs of men are not reliant on sex, but what's happening is there is a movement of men who are angry at their lack of sex, and they are being extreme. They are being radicalized every day by people like Nick Fuentes, by people like Andrew Tate, teaching them to hate women using the idea of women withhold sex from you as a tool. Removing that tool will mentally benefit these men. It will help them feel less isolated, but also, this is an issue that also affects women. Women also feel isolated.
Wait, can we stop there?
No, we can't. I'm not done yet. This also affects women in both that women use sex workers as well. They also hire them, not at as high rates, but they do. And on top of
Oh,
this,
I know.
again, there is the healthcare aspect that goes into this. All of these people are at risk of STIs, STDs, whatever you like to call them. And having a regulated system, A, reduces this. B, having the actual system of there is an insurance company that pays for this. There is Medicare that pays for this. There is a government body that makes sure that the system is functional and that people aren't being abused and exploited. All of these things go into this conversation. But you also have to understand that this has such greater implications outside of it. Look at Belgium. Look at the Netherlands. Look at Germany.
Wait, let's not.
The reduction in sex trafficking. Oh, Quibbles froze.
Oh, Quibbles, are you there? Quibbles, oh no! Quibbles, no! Oh, they got
Whatever
him.
they want for
Oh,
purposes
here we
of
go.
sexual.
You cut out.
Yeah, you
Hold
cut
on,
out. You
Quibbles.
cut out.
You cut out.
Oh,
No one could hear
can you
what
hear
you
me again?
said.
Yeah, we didn't hear
back.
what
Can
you
you hear me
said.
again?
But let me
Yes,
just
can you hear me
reiterate
again?
the last thing that I said. Yes, we can hear you again, which is a
Okay, cool.
reduction in sex trafficking. I don't want people to be abused. I don't think that any system that implements abuse is right. I think there should be ways, as you noted, sometimes the person does not want to have sex with the John. I think that there should be systems that make sure that that doesn't happen by force. But beyond that,
Okay.
I'll leave it to you.
Okay, so I apologize. I have to mess with something on my computer again. Okay, so my question to that is, should we give extremist groups whatever they want for sexual equality? So the obvious implication of that is, like, there are men who are...
And you're frozen again.
Right? So should Belinda specifically, for purposes of equality, be made to have sex with these men because they demand to have sex with Belinda?
You froze again. But
And now you're sideways.
yes.
Yeah. Should, for purposes of equality, right? You can hear me again?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you again.
Okay. For purposes of equality, you claimed that there's this group of desperate men who are creating a movement because they want to have sex. So then my response to that is, should we make, in order to deal with that movement, in order to push back by giving what they want to that movement, should they, if they desire specifically to have sex with Belinda, be able to have access to Belinda's holes and Belinda's body in order to ensure that they're not becoming sexist against Belinda and the specific woman, right?
First of all, that's not how this works. They're not building a movement because they want to have sex. They're building a movement that just says women are lesser. I'm sure a lot of you can agree with this. Andrew Tate hates women. He's an open and avowed misogynist.
He's also a sex trafficker.
He's also a sex trafficker and a rapist. And yeah, absolutely, yes. So these people have followings, and people, especially young people, look up to them, and then they see indications around their own lives with how adults deal with women, what they see on television, what they get in the media. The media has a large...
You're not answering my question.
I'm getting there.
Sorry. This is becoming frustrating that you're not actually answering
I'm literally
question.
answering your question.
I want you to answer the
sex
question.
with Belinda is your question, right?
Yes. So answer that part.
No,
answer that question.
I'm not going to answer your question before getting to all the bullshit that you said before it. You narrativize, you
what
lay
bullshit?
out...
I said a very specific one-sentence question.
You said, A, equality is what I'm looking for, which is not. B, that there is men creating a movement
sex
because
equality,
they want to
gender equality is not what you're looking for?
That's not what this is about. That's not what this conversation has anything to do with, and I never mentioned the word.
You're not seeking gender equality.
I never once mentioned this word, and you're putting it in my mouth. Nor did I say...
I'm asking, are you in support of gender equality? Is that a goal of yours?
I'm in support of equity. I'm actually a gender abolitionist, really.
Equity.
I'm actually a gender abolitionist, but...
Gender equity, and you're a...
I don't believe in gender. I just want people to have health care. I want people to not be raped. I want people to not have to get STDs because their husband went and cheated on them and then got an STD.
Visora,
I want people to not...
Back to the question. Back to the question. Do you believe that because there's a group of... It depends contextually. The answer is no. If they want to have sex with Belinda, Belinda does not have an obligation to have sex with them.
No, obviously not. If Belinda says no, that's the context.
Okay, cool. So I'm asking why, in the case of Belinda specifically doesn't want to have sex with them.
Yeah, so she doesn't have
to. If she doesn't have to, are you comfortable having this subclass of women who are used, exploited, their bodies are put on sale, for rent rather, not
choice?
sale.
Yes.
Excuse me?
By choice, consensually, with systems in place to prevent abuse?
By
Yes.
choice. Okay, so the claim is that it is by choice.
No.
So then
It's
in a
by
similar
choice
way-
is a weird
okay,
way to put it
cool.
because choice has
Okay,
other things
cool.
on top of it.
So,
Economic reasoning.
I agree.
Just a little bit of a housekeeping thing. Hold on, just a little bit. Let's just a little bit of
I
housekeeping.
should have defined choice better. I will.
I understand.
Give
Fair
that.
enough.
Cool.
But we have this weird thing on Discord where you are like 2 minutes behind on my Discord, but I see you doing fine on her Discord, and I don't know what's going on. Do you mind jumping out of the call and jumping back in? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got you.
Just because this is wildly tripping me out.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh.
Yeah, give her. I don't know why this is a thing, but Quibbles.
Hello.
Okay, you're back. Okay, we're
Ah,
back
cool,
into
back.
real time now. Okay, we're in normal time now. We are. Okay, I'm frustrated because this is going in circles, I feel, and I really want to get to the roots of the issue here. So I'm going to ask. I'm going to try to get us back a little bit on track here. When we talk about government,
Wait, can we talk about what consent means?
Hold on.
I want to talk about. Okay.
Hold on. Give me a second. Thank you. Okay. I want to talk about a couple things that have been brought up, right? The claim is that in order to have a healthy, mentally stable life, sex is beneficial to that, and thus there should be some sort of subsidy for people who lack sex to be able to get sex through Medicare, Medicaid, whatever social program you want to use,
or private healthcare,
or private healthcare, right? That should be covered. The question to that. Your claim is that people like Andrew Tate are devaluing women, right? That women are more devalued with this. Do you not see how perhaps, possibly, by having a state kind of sponsored program like this, that would also devalue women?
No, I think in fact it would do the opposite. It would give women autonomy and an ability to proudly indicate by reducing stigma that they are a sex worker. It would reduce harassment that these people get. And on top of this, I don't necessarily think that it's just the devaluing of women that is the problem. Andrew Tate does devalue women, but that's not what causes the violence. That's just step by step in the radicalization of people who watch Andrew Tate. Having the ability to feel intimacy without fear will reduce people like his reach. Like people like Nick Fuentes' reach. Hate comes from insecurity, from lack.
I don't know.
Fear.
They're trying to paint
Okay.
all women as sex workers.
I know,
right?
they
That's
are.
their message, that all women are sex workers. So when you say that, hey, this specific group of
So having a
women
lower
are
class
kind of sex
and
workers,
that's a solution.
I don't.
Yeah.
I just.
Okay.
Anyway, but give
Let's
it.
talk about what. Okay. What is consent?
Consent is whether you agree to something or not. Whether
you agree to something.
Whether you want to do something and you say yes. Whether you agree to do something. Really, it's not even about want. You can consent to something. You don't
whether
want to.
you agree to do something.
Yes.
Is your definition of consent? Okay. I have. We're on a spaceship right now. Okay.
Okay.
And I have captured all of the air. I've sucked it away. And unless I give you back air, you will literally suffocate and die. Okay. And I say, do X, Y, and Z. Right. Give me all of your money, or I won't give you back the air.
Okay.
Is that consent?
What you're
this is Coconut Island. Okay.
I know what you're trying to say here, and I understand that concept of it's not consent if there is what's the word I'm looking for?
Coercive?
Yeah,
Coercive
if it's
behavior,
coercive behavior, yes. And I think that is coercive. I don't think that's consent. I don't think that applies to what I'm saying though. I think it could.
So
it could.
Cool. Okay. So whether you agree to do something, that's the entire definition of consent. Is just whether or not you agree to do something. And so in the case that I just described, it was coercive. So
freely agree to do something.
Unless coerced. Okay. Unless coerced. Okay, cool. Casting couch
knowingly
behavior.
Knowingly and freely consenting. That's the better way to say
knowingly and freely. Okay.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question, Quibbles.
Wait. No, wait, stop.
Let him finish. Let Quibbles finish.
Let me finish. Okay. Okay. Casting couch behavior. What's your thoughts?
Casting couch behavior?
Yeah. You want a job? I have a penis. Suck my penis, you get the job.
If it's porn,
Is that okay?
that makes sense. If
No, it's not porn. I'm
Oh,
saying
well then no, of
I am
course
a
not.
movie director.
Of course
I'm a
not.
movie director. Why is it not okay?
Because it's coercive.
Wait, what? Okay, what if it's I'm a movie director. I'm willing to, make you the head actor in my next movie, but first you have to be a recurring role that's like a smaller, minor character
There's a
for this
power
movie in
dynamic
order to do
here.
it.
You're talking
Yeah,
about
there's a power dynamic in what the second thing I described. I'm saying I have the ability to make you a lead, right? And
Mhm.
so you don't want to be a lower paid extra or whatever in this first movie, but you're willing to be in this lower role for a period of time. And in exchange, down the road, I'll give you a better role and I'll give you this better position,
I think
right?
if someone consents to that, knowing all of knowing all of this, then that's fine. I don't think it's good morally.
Okay,
I don't
casting
think
couch behavior is
I
totally
don't think
fine.
those systems should need to
Let-
exist.
Hold on.
But
Let
under
me
our
ask.
current context, I think that
Sure.
it is not the worst. Like, it is not immoral of the woman to make that decision, or a
I think-
man. in that
Wait,
case.
I'm not asking. Hold up. I'm not accusing a woman of doing anything immoral. That's
Okay,
not
I
fair.
didn't say that.
I'm
I
asking
didn't
whether
say
the
that you did.
man is doing something immoral. Is the man doing something immoral?
I mean, yes, but
Why?
well, because it's coercive. Again, we're doing this in circles.
It is
think,
coercive.
I don't think these systems should exist, but they do, and we are
No,
living
hold
in
on.
them.
No.
Both of you stop because this is an actual interesting point, but you're both gonna fuck this up. So let me try it for a little bit.
Please.
So in both scenarios there, right, where you have a man and he's like, I have a position available, and I'd love for you to be in this position, but you got to prove your worth, and so you got to go and you got to be a lesser actor for a while, star in lesser roles. Is that coercive?
You asking me?
Yes.
Of course.
Is
I
that
mean-
coercion?
No, not really.
Okay, so
Why
why
is
is
it
it
not
coercive? Hold on,
coercive?
stop, quibbles. So why is it coercive when I say, yeah, I have a position, I need you to fill it, but before you do that, I'm willing to let you fill it,
I
but
need to
you
fill
got to
you.
suck my dick first. Why is that coercive and the second one isn't? Why is
Sorry.
one coercive and one not? What's the difference fundamentally?
The difference is the consent. The difference is Sorry, could you
No.
repeat the first thing that you said? Because maybe
Sure,
I
sure,
misheard.
sure.
I might
No,
have
the
misheard
first one
this.
is okay.
One-
We have two scenarios.
Let me
Okay.
hear
In
that.
one, I'm like, hello, lady. How are you doing? I have a position. I'm a famous director. I have a position. You know what? I'm gonna make you a star. I'm gonna make you an actress, right? But before you do that, I need you to go around the office, get some coffee, right? I need you to go and be a gopher for a while. I need you to intern a little bit. You gotta show me your chops, right?
Mhm.
Is that coercive?
I mean, yes, but under the capitalist context, under our current system,
Okay,
like
but it's-
under my ideological context, it's all coercive. But under our current system, no,
Okay.
it's not.
What is that coercive in any fundamentally different way than me saying, "Hey, I'm a famous director, lady. I like you. I think you got what it takes, but you know what? I need my dick sucked.
Yes.
I'm going to go on a killing spree." And so
Yes.
that's. But what's the
The
difference?
difference there is
Tell me
safety.
the difference between
The difference
these.
there is safety. The difference there is the risk of violence. The difference there is the shame and the stigma. Because in the first case, the first question that you asked, you're walking around, you're getting coffee, you're doing regular office work, right? In the second case, you're doing something that is very much stigmatized, that people get harassed for, that people that do, like, in the position of power get outed for and be shamed for. But also the women constantly are
Do you think
accused,
that a
like, Kamala
government-funded
Harris.
sex worker is going to be stigmatized?
No, I think that's to reduce stigma. I think that will reduce
So if we
stigma.
normalize the process of having people that I wanted to be in my movies suck my dick before I let them in my
That's
movies,
not how
would be
that works,
okay?
though, because the sex workers are for
Why not?
healthcare. It's not just legal. It's not just sex workers for everybody, free game chaos. You have to have a reason, like a therapist, a doctor. Somebody has to recommend you to the program. If it's through private health insurance, then sure, any GP can do it. But
Wait,
it's-
why is that specific?
Okay,
Because
no,
I
but you
want this-
said you want.
because that
Hold
was
on.
my
You said
question.
a couple
No, no,
times.
because
You
that
said a
was
couple.
my point.
Stop, quibbles. You've said a couple times that you want this to be available through private insurance, correct?
Yes, I do want that.
Okay, so any general practitioner could do
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
I could go to a doctor and say, you know what, doctor, I'm just feeling, I'm You know, I'm a little under the weather. I could really use a blowjob right now. Could you provide me with a sex worker,
And the
right?
doctor
Or
should
maybe a
say,
coupon to give to my sex worker,
and
right? To suck my dick?
the doctor would have to find a valid reason that would have to be defined as are you suffering from mental illness? Are you depressed? Are you lonely? Are you isolated?
Why are you separating this out?
Hold on.
Because there are
Hold on. How do
regulations
you
in
medically
government?
define loneliness?
Literally by just defining loneliness and then seeing if a person is like. So here's the issue that I
They
think.
probably ask
Hold
you.
on.
Okay, I
right?
just
Here's-
declare myself.
let me clarify
now I
something.
get
Let
a
me clarify something really quickly.
free vagina?
Mental
No, let her
illness.
clarify. Go ahead.
Mental illness is when it's causing you problems. If you have depression and it's not causing you problems in that your life isn't changing, in that things that you need to do aren't being inhibited, then it's not considered a mental illness in the same way. You're not diagnosed
Who would not
in the same
qualify
way.
for this? Who would not qualify?
I'm not a psychologist. What do you mean who would not qualify? People who
Well, if
are
you're going to
found-
advocate for a program,
so, okay,
right, where
you would
people
set up-
qualify, you should have a good idea of what
I wish
qualifies,
I do.
right?
I know what qualifies, but you're asking me a specific one-to-one without any like context here. You need to build a system in which there are implementations of why people should need this, why people can access this, how people can access this. And again, you guys are focusing far too much on the actual sex work because that's not what I'm concerned more with the after effects from it. But in this case, who gets to see the sex work? Let a doctor decide, and we would have experts with the
So why is it-
DSM-4, the DSM-5 rather, and psychologists.
So Visora, I'm curious. Why is it that a doctor has to decide in this case, but when it's a decision of work on my movie in a minor role before you're able to have a major role in my movie?
We're talking about healthcare. That's why we're talking about healthcare.
Right. So I'm asking, why is it separate from this other thing? Because presumably you'd be totally fine, even in healthcare, of being like, hey, before you can become a doctor, you have to have a period of time where you're going to be, I don't know what it's called, but like a doctor in training in a hospital, right? You're totally fine with that.
Residency,
yeah. You're totally fine with residencies,
yes,
right?
But adding sex into it in our current context changes things. Like, if we were
So
talking about in a different context, I would agree with you. But in our modern society...
So I'm asking, set aside the healthcare for a second. Just in general, do you think that it's inappropriate for the director to be doing that, and why?
Yes, because it's we're going to jump right back to this. Look.
No, I'm asking, why is it coercion?
Because it is a system of power using money
to
convince
true of
somebody.
When she's working as the assistant camera operator.
Okay, yes,
right?
But it's not.
Is it inappropriate to ask her to be the assistant camera operator for a while before I'm willing to greenlight her movie?
Bodily autonomy. It's not a risk of danger.
Oh,
it's not a
autonomy.
risk.
Okay,
it's not a risk of danger. I'm still answering your question because again, camera operator doesn't have the risk of you catching a disease. Camera operator
let's talk about risky jobs.
Risk of
let her finish. Go ahead.
Camera operator doesn't have the risk of you not doing a good enough job, so the guy just beating the shit out of you because he feels like it, which they do, by the way. Not everyone, obviously, but this is a thing that happens. It is a difference in danger.
Okay, there's a lot of dangerous jobs on set.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to become a lead in a role, and instead they're like, you can be the fall guy, right? You can be the guy who's paid.
Why are we talking about this? You're talking about jobs as in like upward mobility. I'm talking about we need people that have the ability. First of all, again, no, hold on. No, you're going so far off topic.
You're going another time.
You're going so far off topic.
It's a very specific question.
What I'm trying to talk about here is healthcare. Healthcare.
Okay,
I'm talking about 824 women who didn't get raped in Rhode Island because they decriminalized sex work.
Visora, you said specifically that it's
I give a shit about your semantics. I want to talk about facts.
Please
I want to talk about
you don't
facts.
Understand what I'm saying.
Numbers.
Visora, you don't understand what I'm saying, so be quiet for a second so I can explain what I'm saying.
Sure, go for it. Go for it. Yes, let the stupid woman listen.
You said that it was coercive because it is risky. There's risk associated with having sex with this director, and there's not risk associated with being the second assistant
It's a different
to the
kind of
camera guy.
risk.
Sure. Genuinely be
Fucking
quiet
shush
for a
me.
second. I'm trying to
Okay,
explain something
okay,
you don't
okay,
understand.
okay.
You're
Okay,
Gotta
so the
calm down.
equivalent.
I love
Wait,
the energy.
wait,
Take it from 11 to 10. I'll let you finish quibbles.
wait.
I'll let you
Back to
finish
10.
quibbles.
I'm back to 10.
But take
back
it
to
from
10.
take
I'm
it from
back to 10.
11 down to an
Okay.
8 right now.
I'm
Okay.
down
Finish
at a
quibbles.
Me too. I'm going down to a 5.
Wick. I'm down at a 4. Wick. Okay. Here's my question, and I'm saying the question at level 4. Okay. It is risky on set of a movie, of a major film, to be the fall guy, to be the guy whose job is to be burned alive, right? Whose job is to fall off of a skyscraper. Okay? That's a risky job. Okay? Is it coercive to ask someone to be the fall guy before they're able to be a character in the conventional sense in your movie? Is that
Well,
coercion?
in my let me make this even broader for you so you fully understand. In my personal
Okay.
view, all of this is coercion because capitalism is coercion. That's my personal view. No, but and I'm gonna get more specific. In that specific case, it is a different kind of danger. It is a different feeling of danger. And on top of this, it is an existing system that people shouldn't have to go through. I do agree that there should be regulations on making that safer as well, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about preventing harm. That's all I want. I want to prevent harm. I want to prevent harm to the sex workers, to the people who
Okay.
use them, and to the entire community.
So I can see that.
Okay. Wait, no. Wait.
Stop quibbles. No. Because I want to frame this before we go off on hypotheticals and things. Like I want to separate. Like this isn't a decriminalization debate. I just want to make this clear. We're not debating decriminalizing sex work. We're not debating legalizing sex work. What we're debating tonight is a very specific thing. It's state-funded sex work, right? It's giving a coupon or a subsidy or a rebate check or something, right? Where you give it to people under certain conditions. If their doctor needs it, you take that, you go to a sex worker. Do they have to be in system, right? Like, is there an in system here?
Let's bring this
for-
to Australia.
I actually don't agree with
Actually,
you.
that's
That's
a
all
good.
we're talking about. Wait,
I also don't agree. That's all we're talking about. I'm with quibbles on this as
Yeah.
well. But
Okay, so I want to explain. From my view why we're not talking about that. If this was a conversation and I was arguing against someone who said black people should be enslaved, I would take issue with 2 parts of that. One part of that I would take issue with is I think slavery is bad, and another part of the thing that I would take issue with is I don't think that black people are inferior. Right? Those are 2 separate parts of the same question. So built into the question that the claim that we should have state paid for prostitution is 1, that the government should pay for this thing, and also 2, that prostitution should be legalized. Right. So those
yes,
are both 2
I
different
was gonna
parts of
say
it.
there
And so I
absolutely
think
has
it's
to be
totally
legalization here.
I think it's totally legitimate when she's making that claim to take issue with either or both of those claims.
I understand, but we've been taking issue with one part of the claim for a long time, and I want to, for almost an hour, right? And I want to kind of
the entire conversation has been focused on the parts of this that
consent.
Well, yes, on consent, which is a specific contextual interpersonal decision that is up to people in their context. It's not a
No.
Yeah, well, it is.
No, it's not.
Well, I agree with you
No.
to an extent, but our entire system is coercive. So either we're not talking about getting rid of capitalism here. You need to.
Okay,
You're too
Visora,
broad here. Can we?
There's a
please
difference in
magnify
time.
to harm? I want to talk about harm.
Okay.
Harm
Let's
reduction.
let's talk about 2 different. Okay, it is not in my job description either. To okay, I don't know. I work at I work at Subway. Okay, here I work at Subway.
Do you?
Okay, and here's my boss. My boss says quibbles. There's vomit on the floor. Clean the vomit off of the floor. Okay, that's one situation that they do. To be clear, not in my job description. Then another situation, they say quibbles. There's a penis in my pants. Suck the penis in my pants. Right? Are these different as categories, or are they just different as particular situations? Because I think they're categorically dissimilar.
I think that they're both coercion, just different levels of coercion.
No, not levels. Okay, so then let's do a different
I
one.
don't think they're different category. I think they're the same category. They're just different severity of coercion. But again,
Okay, why
you're
is it
missing
more
the point.
severe?
Let's take this as something in reality. In Australia,
Wait,
up until
sorry.
this year, we
Okay.
had government-funded sex workers in this country. Do you want an example of reality? Because I want to talk about facts, not fear-mongering, not your feelings, not
I don't think it's
hypotheticals.
fear-mongering to say that it's
You're
different to
saying
ask
that
for a
people's holes
blowjob.
are being
Demanding a
like,
blowjob from your employee is not the same as demanding that they clean up vomit off the floor. There's no one in the history of the world who enjoys
Obviously.
cleaning up vomit off the floor. There's
Obviously.
lots of people who enjoy sucking penises, right? It is a
Obviously.
pastime
Sure.
for many a person, right? This is totally valid. However, it is different in kind.
Because one is
They're
a
not the
system
same.
of power being used over another, and one
Well,
is
they're both
consensual.
power.
Well, they are both power in different ways. One is someone who is your boss. They can fire you. You can lose your job if
Both
you
of them.
don't do it.
Yes, both of them.
No, not both of them, because the sex worker in this case can say, "No, I don't
Is that
want
a
to see
sex
that
worker?
client."
To be clear, that's
Hold
not
on.
a sex
No,
worker.
hold on. Stop.
I am not talking about a sex worker.
Stop. There is a real life situation I could bring into this. We don't need to go to fucking hypotheticals.
Same.
There's a woman who is paying her landlord, instead of paying her in money, he was paying her in sex. She offered it to him. He accepted, right?
That's
But
fine.
the problem with this is, as soon as she stops doing that, she doesn't have a place to stay anymore. Even in a state-sponsored system, as soon as they stop engaging in that, they no longer get the money they need
that's
to
a
get
job.
the things that they need.
We're not
But the
talking about
the
that.
question is, if I may finish, the question is sex work a fundamentally different thing as a job than factory work
No.
or being in the military or being in all these other things? And I think that's the
Okay,
fundamental
so
Hold on, you
that's
asked
my
me three
question.
questions. Can
Is
I
there-
please answer them, please? Because you asked me 3 questions. One.
Go ahead.
Actually, you asked me 2. One is sex work a different kind of work fundamentally than factory work? No. You're selling your body for both. You are using your body to do labor for both. Now, in the second question, the first one rather that you asked, this was, is it different, right? Was that the question? Is it different in the hypothetical of this person? Oh, sorry, it was not hypothetical. This is a real thing. This person who's paying their landlord in sex, and if they stop having sex, they no longer get to keep their house. Is it different than state-funded sex work? And if they say, no, I don't want to see this client, do they lose their job? No, they don't lose
No,
their...
not they lose their job. If they want to stop, like
They can just get another
it becomes
job.
an issue where they can't stop and they are stuck doing this, because if they stop doing this, I mean, what are they going to put on their resume, right?
Well, that...
They're just not going to be able to get a job. And we see this play out with OnlyFans workers not being able to be
because that's
employed by,
a really big point right
hold on,
there
if
that
I
you
may.
just made.
If I may, stop,
Okay, fine,
please.
let me, where's my
If I may.
pen?
All right, like there's we see this play out in real time, where we have former OnlyFans workers, former porn stars, former anyone who's done sex work, women primarily. I'm not saying this is right or good. I'm saying that this is what it is. They are passed over for jobs for teachers. They are unable to gain government jobs in a lot of cases. They suffer for this. It is something that is stigmatized, whether we like it or not. And so when we're asking the government to kind of almost, and you're going to take issue with my rhetoric here, but please forgive me, to kind of like trap these women in these things in getting them addicted to the government check, right? I don't know. I think that's fundamentally different than getting them a job at a factory. I think there's fundamental differences here, but go ahead, respond.
Me or Quibbles? Sorry. Okay, cool.
No,
So
you,
first,
the one with
thank
the-
you.
yeah.
You looked over at Quibbles on my screen, so I was confused. So first of all, the first point that you made was like OnlyFans stars and sex workers can't put this on their resume afterward, right? That's part of the stigma. If this is now a government job because it is state funded, there is a program. There would be in the case of state funding, there would be a department that handles this. It would be the Department of Health and Human Services, most likely, but there would be some role that you can name it something different than just escort. You would be able to put this on a resume because this would be a job that is a real job in people's minds. Right now, when we think about sex work, we don't consider it as real labor. We consider it as fake labor. We consider it as people... Hold on, someone's knocking on my door. 1 second. I'm so sorry, guys. Just real quickly.
Anyways,
Okay. Yeah, so I'll pontificate a little while she's gone. Okay, gang. Well, now that I've captured your audience, yeah, it's just this is
Sorry
like
about
we
that. I
talked
got a
about the
delivery.
Norwegian.
1 second. Okay. So on top of this, beyond just the ability for these people to get a different job when they feel like it, there is this idea that like the misogyny inherent in the view of sex work as a negative thing, as not a real job, going into the government traps them with these checks, that is, like, that entire concept is the thought process I'm trying to change here. There is no trapping, it's a job. You can say, hey, I don't want to do this job anymore, and then get a different job. On top of this, it is not only the ability to validate this job, to be able to put it on a resume, because it is now part of the government. It's a social program. We're paying for it with our tax money in that case, or with your private health insurance. It becomes more normalized. There is a difference in being trapped in currently being a sex worker, being stuck on the street, having to do sex work because there is no other job you can do at the moment, because a lot of these people don't have
Let me
other
try
options.
this.
But on
wait, no, wait,
let me finish. Let me
please,
finish.
please,
Let me finish. I was
please,
just
Rick,
like 2 words away from finishing.
Please, let me debate
It's
her.
like 3 words away from
Go
finishing.
for it.
Finish.
Yeah, go for it.
Quibbles.
I lost where I was.
Visora, go.
I lost where I was. I
Two
lost
words.
where I was. Jesus Christ. Okay. The fact that these people are currently stuck in their jobs because of the risk of A, starving to death, but B, traffickers currently control these industries. There is a black market that is on top of all this. There's a black market that buys and sells these people. There are black markets that run brothels. They are currently trapped in these jobs. Making this a thing that is part of healthcare would allow them to leave if they don't want to be part of those jobs.
Okay, I have
Quibbles? No. Let
Wait,
me ask this, and I'll let you
why?
go after. I'll let you go
Why?
after. Please, for the love of God,
Good
because this is
lord!
important. Do you think
You're
that
the
it is?
moderator, dude!
You've been on my show several times before. You know how I do
Ay,
this,
ay, ay.
right? Here's the deal, and this is to you, Visora. Do you think it's good for women overall, that it's not normal for a person to go into a woman's stream and say, "Hey, do you have your own OnlyFans? Where's your OnlyFans?" Do you think that's good for women? Do you think that's helped women? Do you think this normalization
Currently?
has made women feel better? Has it made women more likely to be streamers? Has it had any negative repercussions? This normalization of OnlyFans and asking women for their OnlyFans, has that had any negative repercussions on women who are content creators? What do you think?
Well, first of all, while this is happening, there is also that push of all women are sex workers, all women are OnlyFans models, and they have no value. So you like outside of we're not in a vacuum to be able to answer that question. There are outside factors that are all combining together here to have this effect. The issue that I'm having trying to explain to you guys is that this is not just an interpersonal thing. This affects a community.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's follow up with that then. Okay, is a society like I don't know, Afghanistan, for example, in which women wear clothes that cover every inch of their skin, but men don't? Is that more or less equal, all things being the same societally, other than that one fact, than a society in which that is not the case?
With all things being the same, I mean, like the reason that they
Yeah,
dress like
everything
that is
else
because they have no control over their body. It's their own.
So, but I'm saying setting aside everything else to do with society, just that one simple fact, does that have any impact on your view? That's like the only thing you know about a society. That in one society, women basically wear approximately as much clothes as the rest of as the men do, and in one they don't show any skin.
If that's all I
Which
know
one do you
of
think
this
is more equal?
society, I think that's fine.
Yeah,
I think that like if
I'm asking which one do you think is likely to be the more equal society?
I wouldn't have a judgment on that until I knew more about it.
Okay, let's do a different one. All you know about a society is that in this society, black people consistently bleach their skin to look whiter, and another one they don't consistently bleach their skin to look whiter. all things equal, which one do you think it more likely has more of a racial justice issue?
The first one would give me a red flag, but I still wouldn't make a judgment until knowing more about a society. Now let me ask you a
but
question.
there's a red. Okay,
now let
fine.
me ask you a
There's
question.
a red. Wait. I just want to. Okay, fine.
Fine. No, go on.
Okay. There's a racial issue there because they're trying to change the bodies of black people in order to make the black bodies less notably black. And there's also an issue, presumably, if like Jews are getting nose jobs in order to look less Jewish. And there's also probably an issue, all of those, there's an issue when women's bodies are being made to look less female by hiding all of their skin. Now, the second question is, what about a society in which we demand that Jews wear stars so they can be more clearly identified as
Where
Jews?
does the demand come
right?
from? Like, where does this come from? Why are we talking about demand?
There's a social pressure such that like all you know about the society is that Jews wear stars. Which one is more likely to be the one that has a Jew issue? An anti-Semitism problem.
We're so fucking off topic, guys? Like
the reason that I'm asking this is that I think also if all you know about a society is that in one society women's bodies are being bought en masse by men, and there's another society in which women's bodies are not being bought en masse by men. The one where women's bodies are not being bought en masse by men is probably less sexist.
What I'm trying to say here is when we care for everybody in a society, we create, like men and women, both, we create a safer society. When we like criminalize sex work, generally, this just creates a black market. Just outside of all the other contexts. You make something illegal, a black market exists. Yes? Like we ban alcohol, and then we have black market.
Depends on the thing, and it also doesn't mean just because there's a black market. There's a black market for child porn, but I think that child porn should stay illegal.
Yes, I do too.
Right?
The point that I'm making is a black market is more harmful in a lot of these cases than it would be with
sometimes black markets are more.
Sometimes
black markets are yes. So sometimes black markets are the least bad option. Sometimes black markets are something that we should be trying to get rid of as best we can. But we should acknowledge that so far we have not figured out a way to get rid of all slavery. We haven't figured out a way to get rid of all child pornography. We haven't gotten rid of all rape. But we should try to ensure that rape is definitely something that stays illegal.
So
right?
If we have a system that has been proven to reduce rape by 31% over the span of, what was it, 2004 to 2009.
You keep making that statistic. Can I ask a question on this statistic? Hold on,
because
this statistic's important.
Yeah.
No, I understand. But like, if, for example, if I legalize murder, I would think that murder as a criminal act would probably go down, correct? Like there'd be less reporting of murder because it's not illegal, right?
Also, reports are not the same thing as actions of it.
There's more rapes than are reported generally, yes? We can agree on this. Sure. More people get raped than the people that report, yeah. The amount of people who reported their rapes went down because there's systems that were implemented. Again, in Rhode Island specifically, what we're talking about, this 2004 to 2009 period, was indoor sex work, which requires a building, a manager, someone who does the finances. There is a taxpayer system. It's an institutional system that
you're just describing pimps. Yes, there are pimps. We are aware that there are pimps. Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is a pimp that gets paid by the government. This is a pimp that has to report to the police.
Okay.
But let me fucking finish. Yeah. Especially because not only in America but also in New Zealand. When this happened, when they passed the Prostitution Reform Act, it increases the ability for sex workers to go to law enforcement, right? They go to law enforcement more so they can report more. But on top of this, it also reduces the reasoning for the people who would normally do violence to do violence because now they can just complain to the manager instead.
Okay,
Again, not to say that is 100% of what's happening, but all of these things play together. Are you going to let me finish at all, or are you just going to talk over me every single time that I'm like close to finishing a sentence? Like I'm literally.
You just continue on and on and on, and then admittedly, Wick also will then interrupt, and then eventually he'll get bored. And
I'll keep interrupting. I'll keep interrupting because it's my goddamn show, Quibbles. So stop. Let it finish.
I love you. Infuriate me. Okay.
Now, again, do we want to save people's lives? Do we want to reduce rape? Do we want
every time you do it? Let's start over. Quibbles, every time you do it, she's just going to start over.
Do we
You gotta
want to
let her
reduce
Yes.
these things?
So the
Do we
point
want
is,
to reduce mass
can-
shootings? Do we want to reduce
Visora,
loneliness?
stop. You're just going on the same tirade that you've said
Because
15
you're
times
ignoring
already. It's my
every
turn.
single actual point that I'm trying to
Okay.
make.
Okay. I'm not.
You're trying
I'm not. What you just said is really important, and I agree with much of it, actually. The issue is that it does nothing to do with what my actual view is on prostitution. The view of the vast
What is
majority
your
of
view?
progressives on
Please
this
explain.
topic. Shh.
I'm
Let me
asking.
explain without interrupting. Thank you. Okay. The view by the
Both doing
overwhelming
it.
majority, the view by the overwhelming majority of progressives has been for well in excess of a decade that we believe and always have believed that it should be legalized from the perspective of the prostituted person, but it should remain illegal for the John. So the John can go to jail for what the John is doing, but no one should be prosecuting the women who have been prostituted. That has been the view of literally every single progressive on this topic for
literally.
a decade.
I don't think either should be prosecuted.
Progressive, actually.
I don't think either should be prosecuted.
Okay.
Unless,
but everything you just said, everything you just said about the impact that it has on the prostituted person, right? The woman, most likely, who has been prostituted, who has been raped, who has been abused in any number of ways, whose money has been stolen by a pimp. All of these things are horrible, and she should be able to get justice on that. And so she should absolutely be able to go to the police.
If a crime
That's
was
different
committed, yeah.
than whether or not the John should be able to say, hey, she took my money and then I wasn't allowed to fuck her holes against her will. That's bullshit, and I'm furious and blah, 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 blah. No, I have no sympathy for the John. I have no sympathy for him. He has no right to access her holes. She absolutely has a right to have justice, and if she's raped, then the government should care about it. Of course.
I agree with you on all of this, except for the fact that both should have, I don't think there should be a protection from prosecution if she commits a crime, if she stabs him. That's the thing.
Of course, if she stabs
obviously,
him,
that's what I'm saying. There should be no prosecution unless a crime is committed. Unless a crime is committed.
Stabbing to stay illegal.
Unless it was just the one crime the first one I thought of. Unless a crime is committed, it should stay.
Yes. So which crime? Because stabbing, as an example, is something that already is illegal.
Rape
you need to
is a
change
crime,
the law
right?
in order to make. Yes, I agree. But the issue. Okay, rape is a crime, but the current way that the law is designed, such that prostitution, being prostituted, is also illegal. The fact that being prostituted is also illegal has the result of making it so that if you are raped as a prostitute, you cannot go forward to the police.
Yes.
So that is a problem, and therefore, to be prostituted should not be a crime. However, to sexually violate people who don't want to have sex with you and are only willing to do so because you have paid for access to their holes should stay illegal.
You're conflating trafficking with prostitution here, because you said prostituted. I don't think that trafficking...
Yes, prostituted person.
Yes, trafficking...
A person who is being prostituted.
An escort, a individual person who wants to engage in sex work, and sex trafficking are not the same things. But yes, I agree.
I didn't say sex trafficking.
Well, so that's
I
what
said prostituted person.
I think that sounded like you were conflating the two to me. Prostituted person
sounds
like somebody is making them do it. Does it not?
Hold on.
If a person
because you guys are talking past each other. The reason I interrupt so much is because you're having two different conversations. You're not connecting. You're not. None of you. And it's frustrating. It's infuriating almost. I'm about to. Okay. Anyway, Quibbles.
It's a simple clarification.
Stop! Let me ask you a question. Stop. Let me ask you a question. You won't even allow. I have a question for you. You can answer that. You can talk after I ask you this question. Cool?
Rick, I'm
cool.
Curious.
Great. Wonderful.
I'm curious.
Quibbles, do you think that every single woman who engages in a form of sex work does so against their will?
I think that all sexual acts that need to be paid for, by definition, the man is not able to get a consenting woman to do that sexual act without paying her to do so. And so therefore, it is by definition always bottom of the barrel sex. It is always going to be the sex that is more selfish. It is always going to be the sex that is with men who would otherwise not be able to get a partner. It is always going to be the sex that is more violatory to her than she otherwise would be able to provide to herself, or that he would otherwise be able to get.
Does this include things like cam work or e-sex or something like messages and things like that.
I don't
If
think
I
that.
if
I
I
don't
was a
think.
woman,
First of all,
if I was a woman and I
yeah.
wanted to have a campsite, okay, and I was like, you know what, I like showing off my body. I love it. It makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel good.
Look, this
I
is a
love
debate
it. I
about
love it. It's
prostitution.
great.
This
I
isn't
get
a
a
debate
little.
about
I get a
prostitution. This
little.
is not a.
Let me finish my hypothetical. I get a little
Talk about
titillated
OnlyFans. We're not talking
because
about OnlyFans.
I like it. Right. I enjoy it. And you know what? I can make some money off of it. Sweet deal, right?
You're asking about OnlyFans and Pornhub, and this is not a conversation about OnlyFans and Pornhub. It's a conversation about prostitution.
Sex workers. Sex
They're
workers.
all,
So what
she's
if
they
the
saying-
are all
government?
sex
What if,
workers, but
no, you stop.
Visora, you're not saying
Hold on.
the government should ensure
If the
that
government
I'm not
said
saying
you're
that.
feeling
I'm not saying
lonely,
everyone already has access to free porn.
here is
I'm
a
not saying
here
that.
is a coupon to go to a cam girl. Would you be okay with that? Not
Of
to a,
course
not to a street worker or something like that. Not to
Okay,
anywhere where any
okay,
physical touch
wait.
is done, but simply to a cam girl.
Okay, one, that's not the conversation we're having. We're having a conversation about access to people's holes. It is not about access to Pornhub.
Man,
Okay,
it's really
people
weird
are
that you
able
say
to.
it that way.
If you are an adult, you are allowed to watch porn. I am chill with the fact that if you are an adult, you are allowed to watch porn. That's okay. I'm okay with that as a society, right? That's very different than specifically should the government give you Twitch bits so that you can give your Twitch bits to the OnlyFans one so they go with their tata.
This is
No,
the thing I do
don't
on
think
my
that's
channel. This
the
is the thing I
government.
do on my channel, and I'll remind my channel, right? If you super chat
Yeah.
me $50, I will take my shirt off. And I've done it before. I will do it
Yeah.
again. Is that
Okay.
me? Like, is that violating me in any way?
I don't think that porn is the same as having someone intimately violate your holes. But if you're asking me whether or not I think that porn is something that is broadly good for society, I don't think it's great for society. But I certainly don't put it even remotely on the same level as someone violating your holes intimately.
Okay.
I understand.
May I
Go
respond?
ahead, Visora.
Okay. So,
Please do.
first of all, education is a good point here because you said something along the lines of what was it? The people who need help, the people who can't get sex with a woman naturally, like the men who can't just go and riz a chick who wants to fuck him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason for this is because they're not taught how to interact with women. They're taught literally to hate women and to ignore women and to demean women. They're taught things that make them unattractive to women. Look at South Korea. Look at Japan. The men are so unfuckable that those countries are dying. And so what I'm saying here is this will help educate.
The solution is that
No.
South Korea needs more.
No, let her finish. Let her
Let me
finish.
finish.
Please, Mike, up for the love of
You
God.
guys
Let her
made like
finish. Yeah.
4 points, right? Secondly, on top of this, you keep talking about sex workers as if they're being abused, whereas in a context of this is part of a system that is helping the community, I see them more like nurses. They're there for a job. Their job is to help people. Their job is to help the community. Now, is it fun? Not necessarily. Is it fun for a nurse to wipe some guy's ass? No. But again, let me bring it to a real example. A real example. In Australia, up until a year ago, we had government-funded sex workers for specific reasons. It wasn't for mental health here. It was for physical health. But take an instance of a guy who breaks his arms and his legs and has an erection for 4 hours. You need some help with that. If you don't do something about it, that physically harms you, does it not? Does the blood just staying there not start to rot your penis in this instance? People do physically have needs for these. Now, are they rare? Yes, sure. But bringing this into the idea of the United States, where, by the way, not everyone is allowed to watch porn, like you said, Quibbles. It's banned in 18 states. But on top of this,
No, it's not true. You're lying.
Wait, it kind of is.
It's not banned in 18 states. It's banned for minors in 18 states, which it should be. That's very different than
You
banned
can't
for
get
adults.
Pornhub statistics from 18 states. They're saying banned for minors
No,
now.
Pornhub specifically.
This is,
no.
hold on.
Pornhub-
This is a different
Wait,
debate.
what?
SCOTUS
Visora, you're
heard.
lying.
SCOTUS,
Pornhub-
the Supreme Court of the United States.
I'll take
It's a
that
lie.
back. Let me take
This
that
is a
back
lie.
because I don't. I'll take that back because I don't know the
It's a
recent
different
SCOTUS
debate,
decision.
different debate,
Because
different
you said
debate.
SCOTUS. You said SCOTUS, and I didn't like SCOTUS hadn't said anything prior
Okay.
to this that I
Let
had
me
seen.
just
So I'll
clarify
take
what-
No, they
that
heard
off.
arguments today. They haven't
okay.
ruled
So
on it. But
I'm
SCOTUS heard
pulling
arguments
that up.
today on the
think-
Texas law. I listened to them. There's interesting arguments, but it's a different
Cool.
debate. I just want to acknowledge, though, that one of the quotes that we're going to use for tonight is Visora said that Japanese men are so unfuckable, but the country is dying. That was a direct quote.
Okay.
It is a direct quote. I
Okay.
actually have a clip of that. But
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Pornhub making a decision as a private company not to be in certain states because Pornhub doesn't like that there is a law that says, hey, children aren't allowed
did you literally
to
not just
watch
say we're not
porn?
talking about this? Wick,
I did. I don't know why you decided to keep.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
She retracted it.
Okay.
She retracted it. We're keep going.
I apologize.
Right?
I didn't hear the retraction.
Yeah,
Go for
my
it.
bad.
Continue.
Because you're not listening to me, but fair enough.
Look,
Wick, you infuriate me. I love you. You
Good.
infuriate me.
You should be mad.
Look, the
Go ahead.
actual point that I have here is that if you do this in a regulated, rational way with experts who give advice, with doctors who have reasoning, with a actual, like, we have the DSM, do we not? The Diagnostic and Statistic Manual. Can we not use that to qualify for who could benefit from something like this? Who could benefit from different levels of something like this? Maybe you're a 50-year-old man and your wife has been dead for 5 years and you're too depressed to go outside. Not even for sex, you just want a hug. You just want someone to come and converse with you. This program, the same exact program, could be a part of this. I would argue it actually should be a part of this. I think that it should be not just sex work, but an overall mental health care program that includes intimacy, because intimacy and sex are not the same thing.
Okay.
But
can we take this
before anyone goes on? I have to make money from this because, look, do you guys think I would talk to you guys for free? What are you talking about, right? I got to be paid for this shit.
Wick,
Let me go through it.
Just make your money.
$2 from Zephyr Hash to say, hi, Wick, did Quibbles read my manifesto? $2 more from the same individual. Looks like Visora read it too. W's all around. $2 from another new account. Guy needs to stop interrupting all the time. $2 from Kid. Why are we mixing coercion and persuasion? $5 from another new account. Wick. It's immoral because it's outside the scope of their job without advance notice. It's not what they signed up for. $5 from Trib1. One view. Babysit my children for free if you don't want to, and you'll get the job. Almost like one view. Sleep with me if you don't want to, and you have the job. $5 from another new account. Yes, your job is to clean up the store, including vomit when necessary. Now go make me a sandwich. $5 from Trib1. The answer to the government paying for sex work is no, with the caveat that if there's a necessary reason for a sex work service, then I'd be for government funding it. $2 from Fates. Wait, what one of you support government issue sex stamps? That would be Visora. Okay, that's my money. Thank you for the money. Keep giving me money. And again, if you give me $50, we make this a lot more spicy.
Okay. Wick has accomplished capitalism. Congratulations. Golf clap for Wick for accomplishing capitalism. I adore you. Okay. Back to the broader claim. You said that men with long boners must be fucked.
That's
right?
No,
that's what you said?
That's not what I said.
If they're in the hospital for a long period of time and they have long boners, they must be fucked.
I said if a guy's arms and legs are broken and he has an erection that is not going away, that is a medical problem. And that we in Australia have a system that includes what I'm talking about to fix it. Okay,
so the medical problem of he has a long boner, as in not like long, but like it takes a while, right? The long boner, the solution I can conclude to the long boner is give this man a pocket pussy, right? Give this man a machine in the same way that when you're at a sperm bank, you get a machine that will masturbate for you if you don't feel like masturbating yourself, right? Give this man a pocket pussy and have at it, Hoss.
See, now you're just talking about machines taking away humans' jobs here. No, that's a joke. You don't
need a human being's holes to be violated in order to get the physical mechanisms of like changing the human body in order to achieve orgasm. There are situations where achieving orgasm is medically necessary. There are not situations where it is medically necessary for me to violate people's holes. That's not true.
Okay, so first of all, you're partially correct here. But I will say, like, again, this system shouldn't need to exist. We're talking about the context that we live in, the material conditions in which we exist and how we engage with them. That's what we're talking about. And we're talking about, yes, some of those machines exist. I've never even heard of one until you said it, but I looked.
You never heard of pocket pussies?
No, I heard of pocket pussies. I just didn't like real.
I didn't know about the masturbation machines either. To be clear, I had no idea.
I didn't hear about I didn't know about the sperm bank masturbation machines. Okay.
Okay. Well,
an autonomous thing, an autonomous machine that
I
does
was
this for
concerned
you,
with teaching
that you
it.
don't
That's
need
why I haven't-
hands or legs for.
Automation is crazy.
You don't
Wait
need
till
any-
AI gets access to this shit, and they
Well,
can be like, "Oh
that's-
yeah, baby, oh yeah," while they're going at it.
See,
Oh,
what,
anyway.
I was
trying to
decided-
get across here, this is
I
death
was
of society
immaculately
shit.
Okay, I was immaculately conceived like Jesus because my dad masturbated into a cup, and then I was made into a little in a cup, and then it was inserted into my mother, and then I became a person.
Cool.
Okay, so like Jesus, I was immaculately conceived. Similarly, this is a situation. This already exists. There's already a solution to this. Lots of men give sperm either because they're trying to in vitro conceive with their spouse, or because they're giving sperm to a sperm bank. And this happens all the time. It is regularly part of a medical situation.
I agree. That's not the problem.
Okay.
I'm saying we
Okay.
need to expand that system to include mental health, because that will
Yes.
reduce violence. That
So I said, if your argument reduces back to, I think that the government should give men pocket pussies, and if
doesn't
you
work.
are
It
if
doesn't
you're
work.
a fan of Nick Fuentes, all Nick Fuentes fans need to have a pocket pussy right now.
That doesn't
If that's
work.
your argument,
That doesn't
it has to
work.
be paid for by the government.
It doesn't
Okay,
work.
why not?
Because the entire point isn't the sex. It's teaching them how to interact socially with women, how to feel comfortable
Okay.
around women, how to not hate women, and the fact that
Okay, cool. So it's only a matter of mental health. There's no physical health issues, because all physical health issues that you might be talking about
It is
can be
depending on the
dealt
context.
with elsewhere.
They don't need to be separate.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
depending on
I'm
the context.
saying all physical ailments that you're describing can be dealt with in this other way.
Okay.
So you're only talking exclusively about mental issues.
Sure. Not everywhere has access to these things, though. Like
Naya.
machines are fucking expensive. No, not pocket pussies. Not pocket pussies. Quibbles.
Go on Amazon.
Quibbles, please
Yeah.
listen to me. It's not the pocket
It costs
pussy.
like $40.
Yeah, I'm talking about automated that you don't need hands for.
Yes, you can get a pocket pussy.
And how do you put it on there without hands?
No.
If you're hands-
Okay.
Look, we're getting off topic. We're getting off topic again.
Okay, I'm not going to. Hold on. I don't care. I don't care how it's operated. I'm not.
You absolutely could do it. It is 100% doable with a pocket pussy and a clamp.
I don't want to. Oh God, this is not where I want this
You know
to
what?
go.
Sure. You know what? No, hold
Mike,
on.
I have a question,
Sure.
please.
Let's just drop
costs
physical
grand
health.
total
Okay, wait.
of
Let's
$20
Wick show.
plan.
It's Wick show. Let him talk.
You know, a pocket pussy.
Let Wick talk.
So we're only talking about mental issues. We're not talking about physical issues. There's no physical situation where this is
I
necessary.
disagree, but
Visora.
go on, Wick. Go
How do you
on.
disagree?
Go on, Wick.
It costs $60.
So,
it costs $60
Visora,
to walk into a hospital.
can you describe to me, and don't be lurid or anything, right? But how
I would never dream of being one. I would never do that.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Visora. Okay. Now you're distracting me. Okay.
Sorry.
Topic. Okay. So your claim is that intimacy, right? To teach intimacy, one of the things that you said was providing this will help men learn how to interact with women, will help them learn how to be intimate or experience intimacy if they normally can't, etc. Do you honestly think, and do you honestly think that sex work is going to teach a man how to interact with women?
There's more to it than
Do we
this.
want that to be a thing?
There's ways to go about it, because it's not just about sex. It's not even just about intimacy. It's the fact that the population that this would be targeted to are lonely, they're depressed, they commit suicide at higher rates, and a lot of their reasoning that they publicly put out is because they feel like they are excluded from society, that they're alienated from women. It's not just about the intimacy. It's not just about the sex. It's about being able to be in the presence of them. It is making them feel like they're human, they're normal, that they're not an outcast, that they're not insane, and that they deserve to live, that they deserve love and affection.
Sure. I would pause it. I would hold on, Quibbles, please let me finish. I would posit though that this program will not fix that problem. As a man, if I am told that yes, sure, you can be intimate, right, with a woman, but you have to pay for it, unlike everyone else. That's going to make me feel worse.
Please let me respond before Quibbles jumps
better.
on. Please let me respond, because
Go
the
ahead.
point here isn't that this is not a silver bullet, and no, it will not entirely fix that, but it will do more good than harm. It will reduce rape, it will reduce sex trafficking, it will reduce STDs, it will increase the ability for the people who engage in the sex work to be able to go to law enforcement. It'll increase their ability to feel safe at work and their choice in what they do at work.
I think decriminalization would do that. I don't think this would. And I think that the negative externalities, and let me explain why. The negative externalities of what we can see, what I fear will happen, and what I think that there's evidence for that will happen, is much less in the case where normal women who don't engage in sex work are now having to shoulder the burden with it being normalized for men to come up to them and say, hey, do you have an OnlyFans, right? And sexualizing them in a very specific way that has become normalized. I fear that the same thing will happen with women outside of these spaces when it becomes normalized and okay for you to go up a woman and says how much for a quickie.
Do you want to know
right?
how long sex lasts
That
on
would
average?
that would probably make a lot of women uncomfortable, and it would probably make it harder for them to exist in normal spaces in a normal
yeah.
way. But because the government has put its seal of approval on this, it wouldn't be out of it would become a social norm for it to be done. But I think it would make a lot of women uncomfortable, and it would have negative externalities on there, and it wouldn't actually solve the problem that you're seeing.
Do you recognize that this would depend on how it was implemented? Like how the government goes about doing this, that it would depend, like if they fucked it up, obviously worse outcomes, yes? Can we agree on that? Just the basic simple.
Do you trust the government not to fuck it up?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Okay.
Then why would we advocate for it in the current climate? We don't exist in a vacuum.
I know.
Right? We don't exist in a vacuum. So in the current climate, we have Trump in charge of the presidency, I don't want this anywhere near the government because they will fuck it up.
Because it's not the government that I'm worried about. They'll fuck it up for the people doing the job, but it's already worse for them. They'll still have an increase in their standard of living, in their standard of work. The point that I'm making, why do I think that this will not make it worse for women? Do you know how long sex lasts on average? The actual average globally is 5.4 minutes. If you are with a sex worker for an hour, which is this, it's 5.
Rookie numbers.
That's the average for the globe.
You gotta get those down.
It is absolutely rookie numbers, but like still.
You gotta speed that up, my friends. Yeah,
speed that up? Are you kidding me?
It should take no more than a minute. No more than a minute.
That's sad. And we're talking about what's bad for women. Okay,
yeah,
no, but
continue.
like, so if you have an hour with a person, let's say, which generally, like, let you go to therapy with a psychologist, that's about an hour, maybe 45, maybe 48 minutes. Length of a TV episode. If you spend 5 minutes of that having sex, what are you doing for the rest of that? You're talking. And these people who are sex workers in this case, well, I would imagine everyone that I know.
I've never been to a sex worker. I can't tell you.
I have. And also I know other people who have. We hung out and chatted for like several hours because she stayed afterward. But that's not the point. The point here is that there is a time period of empty space. These are sex workers who are, again, in my view, I don't want them to just be sex workers. I want them to function more like social workers, like therapists. I want them to get training for...
Why can't we just get therapists?
We should also have more of those. I think that we should do that.
No, I'm asking, like, why is this better than just therapy?
Because therapy doesn't generate, like, touching in therapy is seen as negative because you need to feel entire when you go to therapy.
Why is it? Why is it?
No,
negative.
Let me.
There's a reason. This is a good point. Why is it negative?
I studied psychology. It's negative because when you go to a therapist's office, you build a rapport with this therapist based on the fact that they are a professional who's there to give you advice, and they are not impacted by your life, and they are not included in your life. They don't touch you. They don't hug you most of the time. Yeah, you can if you build like a nice rapport and you're with your therapist for a long time, but there is a disconnection between yourself and the therapist. And that disconnection...
There's good reason for that, right?
Is there utility for that?
Yes, there is the utility for that. There is good reason for it.
Do you not think that there's a good idea to keep a separation between a professional sex worker and a normal person?
I think that...
a John or whatever.
No, because like to an extent, it's contextual. I think that part of their job should be to teach you how to be intimate if you need it. I think a lot of them should also receive training for psychology, for social work skills.
I'm sorry, when you say a lot of them,
if the
are
ones
you
that
saying
want to,
a lot of them?
the ones that
Are you
want
saying,
to.
okay, so it shouldn't be mandated.
Well, it shouldn't be mandated that you have to do this.
I'm asking if you want to be a government-paid sex worker,
Oh yeah.
prostitute,
I also think that
should it
if you
be
don't want,
mandated that you have a background in psychology?
no, I think you could learn on the job if
It
you want
shouldn't
to,
be.
but I also don't necessarily. You can be sent to different jobs according to what you're good at, like any other business. If you don't feel
Okay,
like
so
learning
what are
psychology,
these
then they
jobs?
don't send you to one where you have to give someone therapy. They send you to
Okay.
one. Fuck.
If you don't need therapy, what are the jobs where there's no therapy needed, but they need desperately, emotionally, to have intimacy, and the only possible version of intimacy they can have is sexual intimacy, and they desperately need that to be paid for by the
The
government,
basis. So again,
where there's
I don't
no,
necessarily think
yeah.
it should be paid. Like I think all healthcare should be paid for by the government. I think everyone should have universal healthcare, which
So
is where that came up. I know.
I'm
I'm
asking,
answering your
what's the
question. I'm
non-therapeutic
answering your question.
situation?
I'm just
Yeah,
clarifying my position.
okay.
It's not just about that. The non-specific reason why the difference between a sex worker who is teaching someone intimacy and a sex worker who is a therapist at the same time is the difference in touch. The therapist one is there for a different reason. They're there to speak. You can't have therapy without communication. And if these people are good communicators, they're introspective, they can do critical analysis, sure. But that's a level up. The level below that is the ones that can't even talk to you, the ones that can't look in your eye, the ones that feel uncomfortable being in the same room as a woman, the ones that feel uncomfortable with touch, intimacy, because they're afraid. Not because of, like any other, because of fear, because of hatred, because of disgust, any of these reasons. That's where you get the step one, the intimacy. Now,
Okay, so the step one is not, as it currently is, that you are in a room with a therapist and you spend an entire session with a
that's
therapist
step two.
in a room. And let me finish thing. Currently, step one looks like you're in a room with a therapist, you're across the room from them, and you sometimes literally sit there for an entire session and are just silent in the room and you just like exist in the same space as another person for a while. And then after a couple of sessions of doing that for 50 minutes, once a week or twice a week, you will eventually get up to a point where you're able to have a very simple conversation about like, what was your day like? That kind of stuff. And then you're able to build out from there.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than doing that kind of therapy, your suggestion is prior to that, because they're not capable yet of being in a room with a therapist, they should instead be penetrating the holes of unwilling parties.
Still putting words in my mouth. First of all, there doesn't need to be a distinction. A, you can have this and you can have therapy. You can go do this twice a week and you can go to a therapist. B, there is a different reason because of the utility of touch. Touch is the key here. Teach people to touch because, again, look, the real issue is that when men feel uncomfortable, when they feel afraid, they lash outwardly towards whatever is in the vicinity. Yes, generally is this like when people even
Well,
not
it's
even
fight
just
or
men,
flight. They
fight or
they
flight
fight
wise.
or they run away. The fight or flight.
I don't think that, okay, I don't
Well,
think that just because there are violent men out there that we should just do whatever the violent men want us to
Obviously, they
do
don't want
and
us to do
give the
this.
violent men whatever they want in order to make sure that they stop being
This
violent.
is not what they want. What they want is state-mandated girlfriends. I want to teach them how to be a human being. We're talking about death of society.
You don't want to get them
shit
state-mandated girlfriends. You just want to get them state-mandated one-night stands.
I
That's
want
what
to
you
bring
want.
them to a level of human communication that is equivalent to you and me.
One-night stands. You want the government to pay for one-night stands.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. If it helps, yeah. If it reduces rape,
Yeah,
then yeah.
okay.
If it reduces STDs, then yeah.
Yeah.
If it reduces sex trafficking, then
So
yeah.
state-mandated one-night stands is going to make them less sexist and is going to make them less violent and is going to be good for society because your definition of society is a definition of society that includes most women, but not those women. not the women who are included, who are going to be violated
How
by
do I
these one-night
exclude
stands
them?
repeatedly.
How am I excluding them, and how are they being
You're
violated?
excluding them because, quite obviously, back to the shitting in the mouth example, you understood
Oh my
earlier that
God.
this is coercive, that they're being coerced, that they're being
You're
violated.
being coerced to go
You
to
don't
work.
care.
Everyone's coerced
No,
to go
I'm
to
not
work.
being
Capitalism
coerced
is
to go to work.
coercive.
No,
Why are we
no,
talking
no.
about this again? What is the point here? What I'm talking
Visora,
about is
Visora,
you just
can't
agreed
you-
with me. You just agreed with
Visora,
me.
You can't just say, "Woo, capitalism exists," so there's no
That's
moral
not what
implications
I
to
don't.
any
That's.
distinction between any kind of work and any other type of
I'm
work.
not
That
trying
is
to
not
say
what,
that.
that is not what progressivism is. Okay, you can say,
I'm
"Hey, I think there are problems with working in a shirt factory in general, but I think it's worse when you work in a shirt factory, and specifically the doors are fucking locked, and if there's a fire, you can't get out."
Okay, the
That's what progressivism is.
824 women who didn't get raped, less so, that the reduction of rape in Rhode Island between 2004 and 29, was that a good thing? The 824 women who were not raped compared to the statistics before? Is that good or bad?
I'm gonna give a multi-sentence answer. Are you ready?
No, I want a yes or no
Sentence
for this one
one.
first. The yes
Okay,
or no first, then I'll listen.
it's gonna be a multi-sentence.
Yeah,
Bear
everything
with me,
is, because
okay?
we never
You can
stop
manage.
talking.
You're right. I've talked for much more than this than either you or Will. That's a good point.
You both need to just answer the damn questions. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that rape is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that rape is that's true. Golf clap.
Brave, stunning.
Thank
we
you.
love
Stunning,
it.
brave,
Get to
incredible.
your point. You don't need to
truly,
throat clear.
I am the most feminist of all feminism. I think rape is bad. Okay. As a part of my belief that rape is bad, I think that okay, I'm gonna use a different example as a parallel. Okay, it is bad to have sex with the minor, even if the minor thinks that they are consenting to it. I'm still opposed to it. Right? It's worse to have sex with a minor who, in the moment, understands it to be rape.
Yes.
Right? But it's still rape. It's still wrong to have sex with a minor, even if the minor thinks in the moment that it is not rape. The minor is wrong.
Yes.
It is still rape. So if you're asking me, hey, we found this way to make it so that the number of total children who report being raped goes down, and the way that we did that was that we got a bunch of child prostitutes, right? And we paid all these child prostitutes, and in the moment, these child prostitutes thought that they were consenting, right? You might genuinely be able to decrease this other category of children who in the moment understand it to be rape, but I would still not be okay with that.
Be okay
because
with that
I understand even if the child in the moment thinks that it's not rape, that it is rape.
Yes.
That it is still wrong.
Even in the case clearly Quibbles,
So,
your contention here is we can just cut to the chase here, is that prostitution, even if the prostitute consents,
it's still
to it,
violatory.
rape.
Yes.
Okay,
gotcha.
So you're talking about a moral...
I did not say specifically rape, but it's violatory.
Are we talking about a moral argument here? Because that's what it sounds like you're trying to get at. A moral argument of it is, like, regardless of whether or not this helps other people, because it is exploitative of the sex workers, then it is morally wrong.
It is exploitative of children, even if they don't understand themselves.
Why are we talking about children? I want to go back to the regular topic.
Yes.
Yeah, that's bad. Don't have sex with children. Can we get back to the actual topic?
Don't have sex. Okay, wait. Don't have sex with children. Let's expand that. Don't have sex. Are you ready for it? With people who don't want to have sex with you,
no shit.
whether they're adults or children.
No shit.
Okay. Well,
when did we disagree on this? That's what I'm trying to reduce.
If they're only willing to have sex with you because you're paying them, maybe that's an example of a person who doesn't actually want to have sex with you.
But they're not being coerced. They still get to choose.
I agree. And little Timmy is saying in the moment that he's okay with it.
A child is not the same as an adult. A child is not the same as an adult. In New Zealand,
I agree that the children are not the same as adults.
When they reduce when they decriminalize,
children are not the same.
Okay,
I agree that children are not the same.
Why the fuck are you talking about children right now? What does this matter? Because you're still
Visora, the point is that consent violations are somewhat complicated. There is a level of consent that is being violated with any sexual act.
There's a level of consent that's being violated in any act.
However, okay, Visora.
Yes, I agree with you.
Let me finish. There's a sexual violation of all children who are engaged in sex across the board. That is always the case. It is a larger level of sexual violation of a child if in the moment, even as a child, the child understands it to be a violation of their consent. Both are rape. Both are disgusting. Both are wrong.
A sex worker is not getting raped if they want to have sex with the client and they get paid. It's not rape.
One of them is more wrong, but they're both wrong for the same reason, right? Which is that either in the moment the child cannot consent because they are a child, or in the moment the child did not consent because they didn't consent in the moment,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Both
the
of
child
these
is
are
all wrong.
still violations.
Yes.
Okay, similarly, in the case of the person who does not want to have sex with you, right? That is an example of a person who you are raping. Or, alternatively, if they don't want to have sex with you, but are willing to let you shit in their mouth, are willing to let you come in their holes, in order to manage to, 70% of them or some huge percentage are actually I have the exact number. It is substance abuse. This is from I can send this link to you. 70.8% reported injecting drugs in the past 3 months. 92% of whom have injected heroin in the last 3 months. 83.6% reported having smoked crack cocaine in the past 3 months. So yes, I think if you're having sex with a crack addict, give me a second. I'm going to put this into our group chat. If you're having sex with a crack addict and the crack addict is willing, quote unquote, to do it because they are addicted to crack and therefore this is the only way they can get more crack, yeah, I think that you are violating them.
Okay, first of all,
not to the same degree as if in the moment they're opposed to it, they're still violating.
In that case, I do agree with you, but you're still misunderstanding.
Wait.
No, hold on. Let me respond to some of the things you said because you said some insane shit. Insane shit. First of all,
I just want to. You said something very specific there. I just want to get a 1 point, and then we can go forward.
Go for it.
What you just said is 70.8% of sex, with a prostitute, is rape. That's what you're saying?
In our current system, yes.
In our current system, 70.8% of sex with a prostitute is rape.
If they're under the influence and then they can't consent. So yes, I do agree with
that. Cool.
Okay. Now,
do
you think that would, I don't know, maybe go down if these people had A, regular pay, B, less abuse, a job where they can say, hey, I don't want that client, someone else take that client because, we are a moral people and we would build systems that are not going to force people who don't want to fuck that client to fuck that client. Now, if let's say they're low on bills and they do it anyway, they're not being forced. Now, is that still wrong? Yes, but in my view, all of this is wrong. You shouldn't have to get paid to live. Universal basic income is my view. So beyond any of that, right? I don't give a shit if you're technically being coerced because you need money to live. All of us are doing that. Is it still wrong? Yeah, but just as wrong as everything else. In a system where they have the degree of choice over which client that they see, nor do they not see, in a system in which they have someone that is an authority that they can report to if there is something wrong, a system where they are legitimized, validated, can access healthcare, get paid wages regularly because, now it's not a black market and they're not being trafficked and they're not, slaves. They're getting paid regular wages, paying taxes as well. All of this reduces violence, yes, to the workers, to the community. It is better for the workers than the current conditions they live in, and it reduces, again, like we said, reported rapes. Sure, right? Reported rapes, you don't believe in that number. The number's probably higher than that. I agree, the number is probably higher than that. But that 31% decrease wouldn't have happened without the decriminalization. The 39% decrease in gonorrhea wouldn't have happened. The issue being in places like this has been implemented, right? And let's say
so I have a question.
Okay.
Let's talk about your Rhode Island example. So you already agreed that 70.8% of prostitution is an example of rape, right?
Because of drug use. Let's clarify this.
Because of drug use. Yep. Okay. Because of drug use. Sure. Okay. So 70.8%. So then the question is, the total number of sexual encounters with a prostitute, right? Was that percentage 30% higher, whatever the percentage is, than the number of rapes that it went down?
Why do people do drugs?
Wait, Visora, can you just answer my question?
It is answering. Why do people do drugs? Because
Why do people do drugs?
your question.
So-
I think there's a whole host
Okay,
of reasons that people
a
do drugs.
that's true. A large reason is A, economic instability, B, trauma and
Sure.
abuse, and C, depression. All three of
Sure.
these conditions are what currently sex workers have to deal with. They often have trauma, they
Sure.
often have depression. Now,
Sure.
if you put
What
them in
moments?
and drug addictions, if you put them in a regulated system where they're paid a regular wage, they can access health care.
Then they'll just stop being drug addicts?
Well, most of them will try because being a drug addict isn't fun.
Visora, is your
There's
claim that...
former
Okay,
drug addicts in my chat who
A
literally
second, a couple things have been said here. that we need some clarity
go
on.
get recovery. The reason that these
During
people
the
currently
80s,
can't is different.
There were a lot of people who had jobs, high-paying jobs, who were very successful, pretty happy, as happy as anyone. They did a shit ton of drugs. A shit ton! Lots of cocaine! Tons! Right? So I
Multiple
just
cocaine.
don't see, right, the connection between these things, but maybe you can elaborate, please.
Like the connection between
You made the claim that the three reasons people do drugs are because of depression, because of economic insecurity,
okay.
and because of, there was a third one I forget.
I can
but
cite you a
like
study.
that's just not true. I know a lot of people who do drugs because it's fun.
Well, I mean that too, but I can cite you a study that shows that economic instability and depression and like general living stress, home stress does lead to increased drug use in Australia, which
Yeah, I
also
agree.
then leads to increased
Sorry,
domestic violence. Yeah, no, you agree with me on this. That's
Yes.
quick.
Okay, so yes, there are people who are desperately depressed and all of that, and people who are desperately impoverished in all of these situations. It's going to increase the chances that they are going to be drug addicted. People who are drug addicted cannot consent.
Mhm.
Okay.
So let's reduce
If
their drug
people who
addiction.
cannot, okay, cool. So people who are addicted to drugs cannot consent. 70+% of prostitutes are drug addicted. Ipso facto, right? Therefore, 70+% of prostituted people are getting raped when they are having sex, right? And therefore, by the way, this is 70% that's likely to have more sex on average, more clients on average than the average prostitute. Rest of the prostitute.
Continue.
Okay, so therefore, this 70% of prostituted people, right, are getting raped chronically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And so when you're talking about it as something that is going to increase the aggregate number of people who are in this category in which 70% of them are being raped, right? And you're saying, oh, but the number of people who are reporting getting raped is going down. That's not a useful thing to say if you're trying to say that the aggregate amount of rape itself, rather than
So
reports
first of all,
rape,
there is a
because reports
difference
of rape
between
are a white person thing. Reports of rape are a rich person thing.
Yes.
They're not something about people who are desperately impoverished, who are addicted to crack.
That's the point I'm trying to make. There would be
Okay.
less of all of this. There'd be less likely for new drug addicts to form if they could enter this system without having to, like, a big reason that sex workers do a lot of drugs, right, is because they have to get raped. They have to fuck people they don't want to fuck. If you give them a bit more choice, then A, less of that. B, they work for the government.
Okay.
They have health care. They, like, in the case of state funded, if it's private funded, fine, they don't work for the government, but they have a better paying job, they have regular wages. Again, these things decrease drug addiction they just do. Now, is every drug addict going to no longer be a drug addict? No, obviously not. The
Okay.
ones that are should not work for this. Like, you shouldn't be able to do this high.
Okay, that's a good question.
Okay.
You're about to ask something about what about Jews and Hitler? And okay, fair enough. But I'm going to ask about the actual questions at hand, right?
I've experienced anti-Semitism. I'm furious. Continue what we were going to say.
Visora, in your program that you're advocating for, what would the restrictions be if you wanted to be a sex worker? Say I was like, you know what? Government checks, sign me up. I don't mind taking some lady to Pound Town every once in a while that I might not otherwise, right? They give me a few $100 or something. The government's going to pay for it. Cool, sign me up. What would be the requirements? What would I need to meet? Like, would I need to be drug tested regularly? Would I have to sign up to a registry? Would I have to have, like, a background check? Well, what would the process be? Could you walk me through it?
I imagine a background check would be nice, but it wouldn't be like something that denies you like work. Like if your background check shows that you're a child molester, then yeah, you don't get the job, obviously. But
Fair.
aside from that, I don't think you should be drug tested unless there is a reason. Obviously, you know, in a system where
Well, we just had this whole conversation
I
about how
know,
a
but
lot
I
of
don't think you should be
sex
drug
workers
tested.
are addicted to drugs and
I
it's
know,
consent.
but I don't think you should be drug tested. I think that while you're being hired for this, there should be like, I don't know, someone smart and intelligent looking at this, but B, I don't care. If there is a complaint made by a client that the sex worker is on drugs, then they get drug tested. If the worker themselves
health
is
checks.
like health, yeah,
Like
health
for
checks are
physical,
I was getting
really
that. I
physical
was
or
getting to
something,
that.
right?
That should
Yeah.
be required regularly. Every, I don't know, once a month STI tests, maybe once every 2 months, maybe for some like blood work stuff. But every like month you do a physical, you do a full physical, you do a blood test, but you don't drug test these people. I don't want to drug test them. If it's not something that will, because again, drug testing them and denying them this job, even if it is technically them submitting themselves to rape, is immoral. Because this is the job that this is their like livelihood.
Is
You're gonna
drug testing
Wait.
in general immoral? Like for the
So you're-
military, for example. Hold on,
to be fair, I do think all drugs should be legal. I don't think that all drugs are good, and I don't think you should do drugs at work. But I don't think that we
Okay,
should
but
be.
should a company
So
be
then that should be
allowed? Should a company be
tests.
allowed to do a drug test on someone if they don't want? Right, that it's not illegal to do certain drugs, but I don't want someone who smokes weed to work for me because I just don't want it.
I mean, I think
right?
that's
Because you have heavy
Versus-
machinery, for
Well,
example.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. In certain contexts, I do think those should exist, including this one. I just don't think we should be drug testing them. I think we should, like, especially while
So you already said
no,
that
but
they're
listen, because
getting raped if they're high.
yes, but keeping them in this system will let them not be drug addicts anymore. It will let them continue
Okay,
to have
so your
stability
view
so that
is
they
that
could go to
We
rehab.
should just accept a system where we have government paying for rape.
We should build
chronically.
a system that doesn't do that long term. Build a better system long term. But we have sex workers that exist now that need help. And I don't think they should be
And
denied.
therefore, the best way
I
to
don't
help
think
them
they should
is
be.
for them to get raped
They're
more.
already getting raped. I want to increase their living conditions. I want to increase their working standards. I want
Sure,
them to get.
that's a really good argument for UBI. It's a really
Yes,
good
it
argument.
is. It is also a really good argument for.
Sorry.
No.
I'm progressive. You don't even give
You
me
just keep
a
putting
lecture
words in
about
my
why we
mouth.
should have UBI. I agree.
Can you
The point
not
is,
put words in my
it's
mouth
not an
for
argument
once?
to say the government should pay for them to get chronically raped.
You're putting words in my mouth. They are
You
currently
just said
they're
there shouldn't
currently
be.
getting chronically raped. This
Sure.
will increase their living standard. This will reduce the amount of rape. This will give them more
Visora,
choice.
you just said that they shouldn't have
Man, you
drug
never
tests.
fucking listen to me. You literally don't. I don't.
Visora,
I know
you
that they're on
just
drugs.
said.
I know that that is rape. I agree. I agree
Okay.
that that is bad. But the
So maybe the
system,
government should pay for it.
maybe the system will reduce it. Because what you're advocating for
No,
is
this is so
if I don't want to
bad.
pay for it, then you're just going to let these people die on the street? You're going to let them get trafficked? You're okay with them getting
No.
raped even more?
No,
That is what you're saying. That is what you're
Shockingly
arguing.
enough,
Your argument is
okay,
that these people
shockingly enough,
should get
there are
raped
multiple
more.
options. Visora, shockingly enough, there are multiple options available. The options are not strictly let this woman get
Obviously.
raped or let her die on the street.
That's
Those are not the only option.
Those are the options
There's
you
a
keep
third
saying,
option
though.
out
Those are the
there,
only two
which is
options
to
you
not
keep bringing up.
either kill her or rape her.
Those
That
are
is
the
an
only
option.
two options you keep bringing up.
Visora, you're the one who just said that there shouldn't be any law that says that, hey, if you're high as a kite on crack cocaine,
Literally never
you
said-
can't consent.
I actually said the opposite if you were listening. I said, A,
You didn't.
I
You
said
said there
there
shouldn't be drug tests.
can you just shut the fuck up for 5 minutes? I said there shouldn't be
Let her
drug tests
finish.
for the current population of escorts. We should introduce systems so that new people, after we implement this, do have to do that. But the current
Okay.
population of people
How do you
on the
this is a new
street.
person?
What do you
No,
mean?
she clarified her position.
No, how do
What I
I
was
prove,
asking you.
how do I prove that I'm a new person?
What the fuck do you mean? You just apply. Like
I said,
we opened the program and we opened it up to applications. Whoever
Visora,
applies doesn't get drug
someone
tested.
okay.
And then that
Visora,
finishes,
I'm
and
someone
then you apply for a job. You're the new person. I'm
finish
just
my question.
literally
Before
answered your fucking question.
No, you didn't, because you didn't understand what the question was even.
Okay.
The question is this. Okay. Let's take a breather. Let's go. Okay, cool. We're good. We're stretching.
Yeah.
What a good
I got back
stretch.
pain.
A high quality stretch. It's stretch time.
Yeah, high quality stretch is good. All right.
Chat should also stretch. Okay. We're prepared.
Yes. I am having fun, by the
Okay.
way, so thank you for this.
I am too. Okay.
Okay, good. My page.
Okay. All right.
Back to rape. Go ahead.
Okay. There's a person who's currently on the street, who's currently working as a prostitute in America, right? You make her system, and they say, I'm currently working on the street. I don't want to do your drug test, but I do want to get paid by the government to have sex, which the government knows really, because I look like I'm high as a kite, knows that it's rape, but the government is going to say, whatever, we're still going to pay you. That happens month one.
For month one, yes.
Right?
Month one, yes. Month one, yes.
Okay.
But again, there's going to be
Now,
more. No, hold on. Just let me add into just one sentence. That's not it, though. That's all I'm gonna say. That's not where this ends.
Sure. Okay. Now it's month 3, and a different person comes up and says, "Hey, I'm a prostitute. I don't want to do your drug test because I already work on the street," and they're also going to get paid. Okay. But this person is actually, they just turned 18. And they say, the reason that I didn't do it earlier is because I was 17. And I was working the street when I was 17, but I didn't publicize it, right? Because blah, 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 there's laws, right? Presumably even you support the laws where like under 18 you aren't allowed to be a drug addicted. I'm glad that you're opposed to drug addicted 17-year-olds getting raped chronically. Golf clap.
Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah. Golf clap. Okay. So, therefore, now I too am not getting drug tested because I've claimed that I used to already be working previously. There's no proof ever that I wasn't previously working on the street. So when is the point where across the board there are drug tests?
First of all, actually, you brought up a good point. That isn't what I had originally said, but I'm going to edit what I said now, because what I had said was you open the program up. Originally, what I said was you open the program up, anyone who applies can get in, and then anyone after has to get drug tested. But I'm actually going to change that. This example that you gave of this 18-year-old, she can still work, but she doesn't get sent to sex jobs. She gets sent to jobs where her job is to, like, talk. Her job is to hug. Her job is to just hang out. Her job is to, like, in the qualification of this job, if the John wants to have sex with her, then he is doing something wrong because that is not in the scope of her job description. Her job description is to be a friend, is to teach this person how to be around.
If you're not having sex, are you doing sex work? I don't think so.
We clarified this earlier because I said that this should be more than sex.
Okay.
I think
Sorry, if you're saying you want a jobs guarantee, the government should have a jobs guarantee. Okay, where you work on building bridges and shit. Okay, we've had that before in our country, and I was a big fan of the jobs guarantee. Big fan. Okay, the difference is the way that jobs guarantees generally work is that they're jobs building bridges and working for USAID and for AmeriCorps and Habitat for Humanity and that kind of shit. It's different than being a drug-addled, chronically raped prostitute.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Not the same. Okay, so the question is this. Government prostitutes, you said, should be able to reject clients. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. What happens when they all reject? What happens if I'm just a hella creepy and disgusting and horrible person and literally none of the government prostitutes want to have sex with me?
That would be
I'm
true.
Wick. I'm Wick, the interrupting cow.
That's not how social, that's not how these things work. Now, let's say we get to that further extreme. There will be somebody in that group of workers who will say, fuck it, I'll take the L because it's better than any of you having to do it. I'm the least bothered by it. It's like someone who, I don't know, becomes a soldier and goes overseas to risk their life because they think it is good for the people back home, whether they're right or wrong.
A sex soldier, but yeah,
Well,
go
no,
ahead.
no, but it's the same idea of this is going to harm me, but benefit more people than the harm to me will come,
I'll take
and
that
can
dick
make that
for you,
choice.
so
They
that you
can
don't
make
have
that
to.
choice. Someone will make that
Okay.
choice. There is no instance where nobody will say, like, everyone will say no, fuck that. But even if you get to that
Visora.
point, like, there are
Okay,
other
wait,
things you can
wait.
still do and
You're making. Hold up,
implement.
Visora.
You
You just made a claim.
You just made your
Okay,
question.
you just made a claim. Okay, you just made the claim that there's no one. There will never be any person who this is true. If you're willing to pay $1,000 for the sexual experience, or whatever it is, there's going to be someone who's willing to take it. But empirically, it is not true that at $0 everyone is able
Yes.
to get sex.
Yes.
Right?
I
Okay, so if
going
empirically
back
it is
to this
true
again.
if empirically it is true at $0 that not everyone can get sex,
Mhm.
which seems to be
Mhm.
your whole claim, right? Then empirically, presumably, there exist men who no woman is willing to have sex with at $1,000, right?
Yes.
So should we give her $10,000? How about $30,000? Where's the end?
There are systems you can implement, that being one of them, increasing financial incentive being one. Two, you can refer this person to a psychologist first. Say, hey, you don't meet the criteria for this program, but here's a program that will help you meet the criteria for this program. For I believe in bureaucracy. I believe
But they
in
do meet the criteria. That's why they're being.
Well, yes.
In this
That's
type
why
of,
There's
they
an
are
in.
being
Yeah.
recommended.
They
They
meet
meet
the
the criteria.
criteria,
If I may
yeah.
finish, they meet the criteria. It's medically necessary, right? You go, you put it in the program. They go through the process. Turns out they get turned down at the price point that the initially that was offered.
Mhm.
The question is, how much do you increase that? And is there a
I don't
cap where you say, okay, we're not increasing this anymore?
I don't think that it necessarily needs to be that way. Take for example, a different thing. This is actually a personal experience. I have fibromyalgia. My doctor sent me to a chiropractor. Go to the chiropractor says, no, you're like, this isn't going to work. Like, I can't help you here. You need to go to a physio first and then come back to me after. And so I went to the physio and then I went to the chiro after. You can have that referral to the place, and the place say, the doctor, the general physician is not an expert. They send you to the program. The program says, well, you're not quite qualified, but here's something that you can do instead, and then you can come back here afterward. That is
But
a
the
different system.
qualification in this case, the reason they're not qualified in this case is because no one wants them.
Yeah, because they're unfuckable.
They're an uggo.
It's not like,
Yeah, they're
I don't
They're an
even
unfuckable
right?
uggo.
look. I don't even really think
They're
that
Japanese.
like ugliness is the issue here. I don't think like
Okay,
it is
Okay,
more of,
ugly on the inside or outside, it doesn't matter, right?
No, it's not. It's
They're
not even
actual-
about that. It's not even about that. It's about hygiene. It's
They
about
refuse to
clean-
shower.
Yes, they're stinky. It's self-respect.
Yeah.
They need a
They're
therapist first.
gross.
I think
Nobody
again.
wants to fuck them.
Exactly.
They're gross.
And I think that both therapy and this system can work hand in hand. Not
Okay, but the question
everyone is
is-
that gross. Not everyone is that. Now, are there
Yes,
extreme?
not everyone needs
Yes,
to pay for sex. I agree. Not everyone needs to pay for sex at all.
a
in
lot of
general.
people do though. And the people that are getting paid
And
for
70%
sex,
of
as
the
you
time
agreed,
when
are
they
getting
do,
raped.
they are currently raping
Yes,
someone.
I agree. Now, would you like
Okay,
to do
that's
some
bad.
harm reduction or not?
I do want to do harm reduction.
Well, it doesn't
what
seem
harm
like it
reduction
because you
look-
keep. What does harm reduction
what
look like to
harm
you?
reduction?
Please.
Sorry. What harm reduction looks like is decreasing the level of sexism in our society. It looks like trying to ensure that women have more options at the bottom rung. It looks like jobs guarantees. It looks like the kinds of progressive stuff that I actually believe in, but seemingly you only
I'm
believe in so
literally-
long as they're also diddling the balls of the fucking upper middle
Come on,
class.
I'm further left than you. First of all,
You're not!
I'm
You're not!
literally a
You're
libertarian
right!
socialist. I don't believe in.
You're not further left!
I don't
The
think
fact
that the
that you
government
want
should
to- the
regulate
fact that
anything that you do as long as you
I'm
are not.
opposed to sexism does not mean that you are further left.
I don't
than me.
think
promise.
that the government should have a say in what you do with your life as long as you are not
So then
interfering.
back to the
Shut the
shitty
fuck
example.
up for 5 seconds. As long as you are
Okay.
not interfering with the ability of somebody else to live their life. Now, money is the problem here, and like violence is the problem here. Violence and money. Most of, as you just said, everything that you laid out, the harm reduction techniques of giving people job guarantees, reducing sexism in our society, all of those are what this does. This has been implemented in several parts of the world and has reduced misogyny, has reduced isolation and depression, has reduced domestic violence as well as rape, has reduced diseases, and has normalized intimacy. This has happened in the Netherlands, in Belgium, and Germany. Trafficking is still a problem there because those are underfunded programs. This happened in New Zealand, which significantly increased the communication between the community, the stigma around sex work, the complaints from the community regarding it, all of that. Significant reduction, as well as physical harm. Again, people don't have people let's say you're the sex worker and you go home to your husband. If your husband is working a full-time job and can barely afford like food and rent, and you are also working a full-time job and can barely afford food and rent because you're both working minimum wage, that woman is much more likely to be domestically assaulted.
Do you believe in laws about you can't lock the door to the factory so that people aren't able to leave for their bathroom break?
Yes.
Is that an acceptable law to have?
Yes. Because that interferes with the process of someone living their life.
Okay. What do you mean it interferes with their process of them living their lives?
I mean, okay, let's clarify this down to capitalism off of like my libertarian socialism.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm saying
I still think it's bad.
Exists, because capitalism does exist,
yes,
right?
Still bad.
We agree that capitalism exists?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Still
so
bad.
Capitalism is a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we accept that capitalism is a thing.
We have for a while.
Okay, cool. If capitalism is a thing, is it better to exist under a capitalist system in which it is illegal or not illegal for me to shtup my maid?
What? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
To shtup my maid, to have sex with my maid.
Okay, I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
I was like,
Fair enough. Okay.
If she consents to it, I think it's
Wait,
fine.
do non-Jews not say shtup?
I've never said shtup.
Okay. You should say shtup. Shtup is a great word.
I do kind of like it. I think I might pick that up. I mean, I'm not Jewish, but
yeah,
like,
it's a good word. It's a solid word.
Would that be cultural appropriation?
Appropriate my culture. Yes,
Okay,
it would be cultural appropriation, and
Yeah.
I'm fully in support of it. Appropriate my culture. Yeah.
Okay.
Should it be legal for me to shtup my maid?
If she wants to, yes. If she consents, even like again,
there should be
under the
Should
system that we live in. Just to clarify, because we've done this a few times, I understand that coercion is a thing, but I don't think that qualifies in the decision making because that coercion is not going anywhere. By removing, like,
you know what else isn't going anywhere?
How about safety standards?
This conversation.
How about safety standards? Are you in support of safety standards?
Absolutely. Regulation, absolutely. Safety standards.
Okay. Only for physical safety, though, not for emotional safety.
No,
There's no emotional safety
No,
standards?
there is. That,
Okay.
Like,
How about as an emotional safety standard? How about as an emotional safety standard? You are not allowed in the factory as the boss to slap the ass of one of your workers.
Yeah.
That a good emotional safety standard?
Yeah.
Doesn't it violate your physical safety? It's an emotional safety issue.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
In terms of the emotional safety of my maid, should it be illegal from an emotional safety perspective of my maid, given that she works alone in my household, and I'm a scary 6'1" man, right? To make a rule that I'm not allowed to ask my maid while she's on the clock for sex.
Well, then yes.
That should be a law.
That should not be a I don't like whether or not it should be a law. I don't like the idea of like it all needing to be law separately. This can all be one law. Rape is illegal. But you're saying that this is different from just generally raping somebody. You are raping. You're like Harvey Weinstein in this instance. You are describing like an instance of a Harvey Weinstein, someone who holds the other person's job in their hand and can ruin their life if they say no. You can make her homeless. You can give her no money. You can assault her because she's alone in your house. That is why it's wrong. And it is already rape and assault. You don't need a specific law to make that specifically illegal.
Okay. The goal of laws is to reduce harm. The goal of laws is to reduce harm.
Yes.
Right? There is harm associated with the slapping of the ass of the woman at my
That's already
doctor's
illegal.
office.
I agree with that being illegal. The maid bit,
Okay.
the doctor's office one, I forgot.
Okay.
Sorry, the slapping
Cool.
the ass bit.
The slapping the ass, sure. That's illegal.
Never forget slapping the ass.
Yeah,
But
that one's illegal because it's
You should never forget.
already illegal. It's sexual harassment.
Okay, cool. It's sexual harassment.
Mhm.
Okay. Why?
Because it is a person in a position of power. Again, this is the factory worker, right? Like this is your factory and this is your worker.
We're close. We're getting
or,
close.
Or a manager or something. Yeah, position of power that you hold control over this person's life. Their money, their job, their livelihood. You hold control, which is what makes it different.
I control control. Good.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them they don't want to be told, but I tell them they have to stay after for an extra 30 minutes. Right? Because we're in the middle of fucking, like, we work on a construction site and there's a bunch of wet concrete and we need to get the concrete into place. And if it's not into place, then we're all screwed and we like mess up the job.
Yeah.
So I say, sorry, bud, you have to stay an extra 30 minutes to finish this concrete job. Okay. Is that the same? Because they don't want to do it, but I'm making them do it and I'm holding for ransom their ability to get paid.
No.
Is that the same
degrees.
as slapping them in the ass?
No, that's degrees.
No, it's not
literally
degrees.
Your job. It's literally your job. It is part of your job. You should pay them overtime.
No.
It's illegal to not
Okay,
pay them
but
overtime.
Yes, I agree, but there's a difference in kind between one and the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even if I pay them extra, I'm like, hey, sweetheart, I love your butt. I'm gonna pay you an extra 25% if I get to slap your butt.
Because that's not part of her job. It's not part of her job description. It's not part of her job. It's not
part of the job description to clean up the vomit.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. At the law factory.
No, yes, it is.
I am a lawyer at the law factory. Okay. As a lawyer at the law factory, there is no part of my job description that says, Quibbles, you must clean up the throw up on the floor of the law factory.
That's not true, actually.
That's not part of my job description.
That's not true. Because if you work in a factory, part of your job description is to keep your workplace clean and tidy. Generally, it is to
I'm a lawyer.
Let me ask this.
If you're in a factory, you're not in a factory.
You guys are talking past each other again.
If you work in a please let me clarify this one little point. If you work in a job in any room, if you vomit on the floor, it's your job to clean it. You're at work. You're on the clock. It's your job.
Fair enough, though. You're correct, right? She's just correct here. Like that's just part of a lot of job descriptions. It might not be the question.
It's not part of every job description. To be crystal clear, there are lots of job
descriptions. At hand, the actual interesting question here, and this is for both of you, but primarily for Visora, is if it was made part of the job description going in, and they knew it was part of the job description going in, it was made clear that hey, if you work here at a law firm, we're gonna slap you in the ass sometimes. Would that be okay? Would there be anything wrong with that?
Are we talking
morally speaking?
Okay, morally speaking. Well, I mean, yes, but there's a lot wrong with all of that. Morally speaking, let's bring it.
Setting aside capitalism,
bring it off of morals. I wasn't talking about capitalism. I was talking about other systems of like the economy in that.
What is wrong with that? Can you describe why?
I think it should be okay.
Issue
I just don't think that it's like. I think it should be legal. I just don't think it should be like.
I'm not talking about legal. I'm talking about moral. Right?
It's gross.
You think it's immoral. I'm trying to ask you why you think that's immoral.
Because it's exploitative. That's why. Because it's intentionally exploitative. And yes, people will knowingly and willingly and consentingly take that job, and it will still be exploitative. I'm not even arguing that this the sex workers healthcare system isn't exploitative. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing this is a silver bullet. I'm arguing that this is a harm reduction step that would have to be built on top of multiple other things, that multiple other functions need to be built around this. This is just step one. This is baby steps into solving little bits of problems here and there. Again, the ability for a woman to have job security enough to leave her domestic violence situation at home because she works for.
Okay, I'm not quite following. So your answer.
Let's say.
Your answer was to the question of whether or not it should be allowed to be put into the contract that I am allowed to slap you in the ass while you work at a law firm. Your answer was
I think you should be
Yes or
allowed
no?
to do that, but I think it's horrible for you
That
to
should be
do it.
allowed to be in my contract.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to
It's
physical
horrible if you
safety, because
do.
clearly that's a standard that we have built into our system governmentally that you oppose, and that is about protecting people's emotional health and about protecting people's capacity as women to operate in the workforce. Right? You don't believe in that as a safety standard. Okay.
That's not
How
true.
about physical safety standards
That's
now?
not
Back to physical safety standards.
You're
You said earlier.
twisting it again, but short.
No,
physical
that's an
standards.
emotional safety standard.
Yes, I
There's
know.
a reason.
I'm
Okay,
aware.
so the emotional
about
safety
this?
standard, you say that as long as I agree in my contract to go back on that emotional safety standard, it's fine to not have that emotional safety standard.
You're trying to
So now my
treat
question
symptoms. I'm trying to
is,
treat
now my
the
question is about
cause.
physical. Okay. Without fixing capitalism,
It's not
which I know you have a
capitalism that
problem.
I'm trying to fix. It's not that.
What are you trying to fix?
I'm trying to fix.
What are you trying to fix?
Male loneliness, female loneliness, the idea
Okay,
of communication, community, the idea of people that get exploited
Visora.
on the street. Your point, the 70% of women
The
getting
existing
raped
society
doing
that
sex
exists.
work. That's who I'm trying to protect here. Because yes, they
Okay.
are still exploited when it's under the government. But there are more
Okay.
protections, more systems for them to get out of this job and get a different job and to get off of drugs. Included in this.
Okay.
All of this affects that.
When we exist in the system in which we operate, I think it is better to make it illegal to have something in your contract that says I'm allowed to drop my pants in the middle of the workday and say, you suck my dick.
I think that this is
before we
horrible.
continue
Okay.
as part of our job.
Let me clarify that again, because I answered that question in regards to like my own personal ideology of less regulation on how you behave, more regulation just on businesses. In our current material conditions that we engage with, this is already illegal, and I don't want to make it legal. I don't want to make that legal.
Okay.
It's already
You
illegal.
don't want to make it legal.
No, I don't want to make that
Okay.
legal. You're giving me
Good.
examples
I'm glad.
hypothetically. I think in my perfect
Good.
society, you don't need the government regulating how you behave interpersonally. I think we should just be regulating
Okay.
business. But
So
in our current
I'm asking-
context, this is already illegal.
Okay, so
Hey, I'm going to
asking.
interrupt both of
No,
you
no,
right
no,
now
no,
to let
please,
you know
please
that
let
we
me
have a
finish this.
time
Please let me
limit
finish
here.
this.
We've already run over time, so
Okay, but please.
you better get to the points.
Okay, the point is, you just described you're okay with there being a law that says you cannot, even if it's just slapping the ass, even if it's not sex, right? Slapping an ass is presumably not like, particularly if
That's
you're
a
okay
sexual
with a person slapping your ass.
But like,
Yeah,
if you're not,
but
yeah.
it's sexual harassment. My point is, it's low-level sexual harassment in comparison to the high levels of work that might be expected of you in other contexts, right? It is reasonable to have, if you're working in a law firm, an expectation that you spend a year and a half on a bunch of bullshit nonsense pushing papers that you don't like to do, that might be more unpleasant than getting slapped in the ass one time. But it's reasonable because there's a difference in category between the slapping of the ass and all of that busy work. And so therefore, it's okay to say, busy work, cool, but there's a categorical difference.
Yes.
Because sex is categorically different than is that busy work, than is cleaning up the vomit, than is all of this bullshit that is associated with I have to be the third AD or whatever the fuck it is for the movie for 15 years before I'm allowed to be a director instead of sleeping with a director.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. So continuing. I'm with you. I don't
Okay,
disagree with
so
you here.
sex is categorically different.
Yes, I have been saying this as well.
Okay, so if sex is okay, cool. So if sex is categorically different, then maybe we shouldn't be understanding it as something that's perfectly permissible to treat as though it's the exact same in the context of our legal system, and as though it is entirely the same in the context of what we should be doing in terms of healthcare. Obviously.
The reason for a lot of these issues is because of this very large distinction we put around sex. We make it this whole special thing that's different. I want to normalize. It is. Listen to me. It already is. I want to change that. I don't think it should be.
So in your
are you gonna?
We
please.
So we don't have 10 more hours.
I'm trying to
have
answer your question.
20 more minutes before I'm done with this, and I gotta read super chats and everything.
In your perfect system, would it be in your perfect system, not the system we exist in currently, but in your perfect system, would it be acceptable for me as a boss to write in the contract of my female employees, I get to slap you in the ass?
In my perfect system, you wouldn't be a boss of anybody because there would be no boss, but no. Let's say in my perfect system under capitalism, no. I'm clarifying because people are going to clip me out of context. Like, that shit happens. No and no. In both cases, no.
Okay.
Beautiful. Let me read these super chats before I go insane.
Cool.
Go
And
for
then
it.
let's kind of wind this down. I do have some questions, but
Yeah, sure.
it's going to be impossible to ask Visora questions and Quibbles questions at the same time. I've realized this. I've
We can take turns.
We can take turns, yeah.
but
Put a stopwatch. Literally put a
No.
watch. Put a
what's going
stopwatch.
to happen
like we're
is
in
when
the-
I want to
Why
ask a
not?
question, I'm going to
60
ask
seconds?
a question. And when I don't want to ask
60
a
seconds.
question,
Yeah, it'll be a chess clock. Let's do a chess clock. We each get 5 minutes total. You do a chess clock. We
I'm
get to like click the little
not
button.
doing that. If I don't get to ask my questions, I will remove the participant that has been an obstacle to asking my questions. That's what will happen. So here's what we do. $5 from Muffin Topical says, can Quibble state the difference between an independent prostitute and a porn actress, or are they both being assaulted?
I think that porn is a complicated subject. I think that often porn, and particularly the porn industry as it exists currently, particularly in the context of Pornhub, is very exploitative. I think that OnlyFans is less exploitative than is Pornhub, but I think that there is a broad problem with work in general that is sexual and in which like you as a sexed object is relevant to the capacity of you to do the work. But I don't think that all work in which you as a sexed object is relevant is the same as you getting penetrated in your holes.
Okay. $2 from another new account. Not joking, prostitution MOS for the military, for those of you who are unaware, would be based. No, it would not. $2 for Fates. How does opt-in system force anyone to do anything? And thank you for the $2. Appreciate you guys. And thank you for the subs on Twitch. I do appreciate that. If you guys want to, if for whatever reason you're liking this content, please like the stream. Please
I
follow
like this
me, right?
content. Me and Quibbles are
Right,
having
if
fun
you're
here.
enjoying,
I had a really good time. I don't
by all
know.
means, please.
But can I just say I'm
continue
really
super
glad that you're
chat.
having a good time. Like, I'm glad.
Yeah, no, I agree. You also.
I'm
Yeah.
glad someone
Your
is.
views
Okay,
are
but here's what we're gonna do.
but
Here's what
I
we're gonna
adore
do, right? Because
Yeah.
we're gonna go to closings, but we're not gonna end the stream. But I want to close out the conversation, official debate, and then I want to get to some questions I had about the topic at hand. So that's what we're gonna do. And if you need to leave, you can leave. You're not prisoners here. This isn't coercive, right? Just go. And if callers want to call in, depending on my mood, you can come jump backstage in my Discord. And if you have questions for either these participants or me, as long as you want to stay, we'll keep going. That's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna give Visora the first chance, and she's not gonna be interrupted. And then Quibbles is gonna go, and once Quibbles goes, he's not gonna be interrupted. And please, there's a link to the description of each of these individuals in my YouTube description, right? There's a link to the channel, I should say, in my YouTube description. Click on that link, give them a follow. They took the time out of their day to be part of my show. Give them a reward. Subscribe to the channel, follow their channel, whatever they need. Visora, closing thoughts on this, and then we'll get to Quibbles. Go ahead.
Look, closing thoughts on this, I'm going to keep really short and simple. This isn't about sex work. Sex work is part of it, but it's much more than that. It's about creating a safer, healthier community, a compassionate society. It's about harm reduction. It's about reducing damage done to people's lives using evidence-based solutions that are not necessarily perfect and do need to be improved, do need to be built on, but are still currently better than the systems that we have, and will have a lot of side effects that don't interact generally with healthcare nor sex, but are some of the root causes of violence, stigma, misogyny, and overall, having a system like this in place, regulated and done properly, with controls around abuse, as we've discovered and discussed, would benefit the entire community. That's it. That's my closing arguments.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Quibbles, go ahead.
Okay. I believe in safety standards. I believe in safety standards for physical safety. And I also believe in safety standards for emotional safety and for social safety. It is dangerous and bad when we have a system in which women are reduced to sexed objects. and I don't want that to be a fact of our work environment. I don't want it to be a fact of our culture. To the degree that prostitution is being wielded towards that end, I think it's bad. I also think to the degree that prostitution is being used as a way to rape women's bodies, that is bad. We already got from Visora the agreement that 70+% of prostituted rape, prostituted sex in the context of the United
I
States
mean, you were right the
currently
first time there.
is rape. I'm sorry.
I was saying you were right the first
Oh
time
yeah.
there.
Oh, you interrupted me. How dare you
I
interrupt
agreed
me?
with
Never
you.
interrupt me. I was no. Even to agree, you can never interrupt.
You guys can't
I'm
stop.
furious.
You're literally incapable. You're children.
No, I'm
Go
furious.
ahead.
No. I was perfect. I was silent the entire time.
I'm
because I'm a
sorry,
great
I couldn't
person.
help. I was just wanted to say that you're
And
right.
You're doing it again, Visora. No, stop.
This proves that Visora is wrong because Visora was an interrupting person, and that is evil. I rest my case. Thank you.
God, this
Yeah.
this was something, gang. I'll give my closing
Yeah.
thoughts as well. Look, I think I could agree with Visora that there is a lot of problems with loneliness, lack of intimacy, sexism, misogyny, etc. in the world. I simply don't think her proposed solution will fix any of that, and in some ways, it might make it worse. Could there be some benefits to the system? Perhaps, but I think the externalities of adding, of normalizing, right, much in the same way that OnlyFans and having sex work and OnlyFans normalized on Twitch and in YouTube has normalized men asking women content creators for access to their sex work page, their OnlyFans page, etc. And it makes a lot of women uncomfortable, and a lot of women don't want to be in this space and don't want to be in an environment where that is normalized. I think that the government putting its seal and stamp of approval on sex work in general is going to have a similar effect on just, again, the normalization of it in general in society. Right now, I think it's a good thing that we stigmatize a man going up to a woman and asking, "Hey, baby, how much?" I think it's good that that's stigmatized. I think it's good that people view that as repulsive, harassment, etc. And I worry, my fear is that implementing this system in America will have that effect. And that's my closing thoughts. Do you guys mind if I bring a caller in?
Bring in a caller. I'm fully on board.
Okay.
Bring in your caller.
I'll do one and then I gotta go.
Bring a caller in.
Oh, yeah, you gotta mute the stream, buddy. You're live.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, what you got for us? You got a question?
We can hear you.
Over. So, I was thoroughly curious. You guys have been kind of conversating back and forth for a little while. It didn't seem like we were hitting a debate point, but I got stuck up on one particular part. You guys were talking a lot about whether something was coercion or not, and I feel like a lot of this stops for me there. Most of it, from my own perspective, I feel like is more compliance, if anything else. I think the worst case scenario would be coercion, in which women are forced in by one of your examples. Well, examples both of you gave, drugs, for instance. In many cases, financial support. These are things that we already know pimps will do. But beyond that, I think a majority of cases are compliance. They will get something from it, an offer is given to them, and they voluntarily comply to that. What I'm curious about is where we're getting the negative connotation from that. We already know that a lot of these people don't probably have very many other options, and the options that they do choose from, this is one of them. If we want to negate this as one of those options, then having some form of safety for these women is kind of paramount. It's necessary.
So I believe in the broad point that you're making there is that like we shouldn't be taking away least bad options from people who are desperately impoverished, and I agree with you broadly speaking that we should not be taking away least bad options from the desperately impoverished. The caveat to that is that there are certain things that I do not believe in aggregate that people can consent to. So one of those is physical safety standards. So I'm curious, I posed it to Visora, but I'll pose it to you as well. Do you think that the laws that we have on the books that say that there are certain physical safety standards that we have in the workforce, in the workplace, should we get rid of those, or do you think those are appropriate to have physical safety standards?
I think it's appropriate for us to have those. Yes.
Okay, why is physical safety standards acceptable, but emotional safety standards are not acceptable?
I don't think this is a question about whether or not it is emotionally necessary. There's a lot of things.
Emotional safety. So I want to clarify what I mean now. I'm sorry, I
Mhm.
was imprecise. Emotional safety standards. By that I mean things like you're not allowed to ask certain questions of your people. You are not allowed to ask them about like what are their religion and like pressure them about their religious worldview, or pressure them about their racial background or about their religious background, right?
Understood.
So similarly, you're not allowed to pressure them towards the end of sex, right? Even asking the question, "Can you mow my lawn?" is perfectly acceptable. I can ask my employee whether or not they're willing to mow my lawn, and maybe they'll say no. I cannot ask, even off the clock, "Hey, will you suck my dick?" I'll do it as a separate thing on the side, as something to do with your job, but on the side, will you suck my dick? Right?
That statement right there is where we disagree. I think
Okay.
that point is coming from the idea that I'm asking you to do this, but this is my job. It is a difference, like you were saying before multiple times. It's in your job description that you
So what
sleep.
I'm saying is, it's not in your job description to mow my lawn. I mean, my personal,
No,
like my
but
personal,
it is in a
like my
prostitute's
house.
job description to have sex
But I'm
with.
saying, yeah. So I'm asking, like, you work for me at Subway, and I am slightly well. I'm not crazy rich, but I'm slightly richer than
Wick.
you are, because I'm the head of the Subway.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, I will pay you $50 this weekend to come mow my lawn.
Mm-hmm.
Down for it, right? I think it's acceptable. Whether you agree to it or not, I think it's acceptable for me to ask, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's acceptable for me to be like, hey, you work for me at the Subway, $100, suck my dick this weekend. You up for it? I don't think that's acceptable.
Okay. Yet again, you're talking about something in a hypothetical that I'm going to refer to in reality. Your job is
Clearly,
to
both of those are very much reality. Both of those things
so
definitely
your
happen in
job.
reality.
Let me finish. Your
Yeah.
job is to have sex. So
Dang.
when I pull up on a woman in a corner and you come up to my car when I roll down the window, these are the things that you do to let me know what your job is, and that I do to let you know what I'm looking for. When I present to you, hey, I would like for you to give me this service for this amount of money, there's nothing wrong with that because it's your
But
job.
there is something wrong with that.
Okay.
Mr.
I'm
and I
gonna jump
already
in on this
already.
because I gotta go. I love you
Yeah,
all,
sorry.
gang. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be having Not So Erudite, Katusha. We're going to be having Sad Kit Kat and Kirby Phone. And we're going to be, it's an all-woman panel, and we're going to be talking about what it's like to be a woman online. They're going to be sharing experiences, like what challenges that are unique to them do they face, what potential benefits do they have as women online that they might benefit from. It should be a fun discussion, a good discussion. I hope you all join me for that. And yeah, so we're gonna end. Are you gonna? Is anyone here still streaming after this?
I'm still streaming on mine, but I just wanted to say thank you for having me on, and thank you to your audience, and thank you to Quibbles.
Good to meet you.
Again, this was an excellent debate. I'd love to debate you again on something else. If you have something, let me
Sure,
know.
for sure.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, I hope you all have a lovely
Hey,
day. Oh wait,
Visora,
yeah, what's
real
up?
quick, I would love to actually like hear what your opinion is. Is
Sure.
there any other place that I can like? Do I have to just go to your Twitch, or can I talk to you in the Hangout?
You
What's
can
up?
jump onto my Twitch if you want to. It's I'll link it in. Which chat would I link it in here? This one. There we go.
General is fine.
Actually, it should be linked in the video description, but there.
I'll just go read out to Visora. But I'll see you guys later. And again, tomorrow 6 p.m. Eastern. I love you all. Thanks for being here. Wait, bye everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, well, that was an experience, guys. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Hey, Mello. Good to see ya. Oh, wow. And there's the raid. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. Now, let me see if this is gonna break everything, because I'm gonna switch to a different... Hey, it worked. Cool. All right. So, any questions? He thinks he's a progressive. I mean, he is, but he's a liberal. That's the thing. His views are kind of liberal. What's broken, Wolf of Mandalore? Thank you, everybody. I hope that was fun for you. I'm glad. I got a bit more angry than I wanted to. Like, I yelled a lot more than I wanted to, but like, I genuinely, it was like I could not say anything. But like, I still had a lot of fun. I'm the guy who popped in at the end. Mello, what was your question? Like you said you wanted to hear more of my thoughts on this. I think the important lesson here, age, left is right, up is down, poop is cum, praise baby Jesus, Jesus Christ. That guy 100% has a manifesto. I feel like I had to yell to get a word in too. I really did. Thank you guys for all the follows. Oh my God, and the bits. I really appreciate it. I tried my best to keep this simple and coherent, but it didn't really work. My main point overall, ban hole. Oh my God, the fact that like he said holes the very first time, it just like I was like, what? What the fuck did he just say? And then he just kept saying it, and I had to work through the cringe. That was the hardest part, is working through the cringe of hearing holes every time. See, I could tell you were based as hell just by listening to you. You handled that very well. Thank you. It was a mass murder survival. The temple in Pittsburgh was attacked. Well, I mean, I'm glad he survived. Okay, but like again, the main points, guys. Still, it's just public safety. It's not even really about the sex work, which is a part of it, but it's about regulation. It's about safety. It's about giving people options. You believe, you do believe the benefits are exactly. What? Mello? What are you saying there? What do you believe the benefits are exactly? Thank you. Sorry, Jesus, I can't read. I've been doing this for so long. My brain went blah, 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 blah. The benefits to this overall, I think, are reductions in rape, reductions in disease, reductions in domestic violence at home between partners, an increase in ability for people to engage socially without fear, a reduction in the amount of hate towards women that is successful, because obviously the hate wouldn't stop. They would still continue to try. Hey, the hype train. No, yeah, it would be less of X. You know, there would be, there would still have that group. We would still have that group of misogynists that are trying to spread all this like women hatred, but it would be less effective because it doesn't work when the guys don't feel socially isolated and alone and insecure and like they're demons and they're isolated and they're hated. It's almost like, I don't know. It's almost like we're just arguing here for like a basic amount of regulation on a system that currently exists, will continue to exist, whether we do something about it or not. And the argument that I received was, well, you're pro-rape because you're taking the people who are being raped and you're improving their living standards by allowing them to continue to get raped, but with, you know, some more protections, regulations, the ability to call the police, the ability to, like, I think dude just hates people fucking, I guess. I don't know. A lot of people are weird about this kind of stuff. I don't think he hates sex. I don't think he's like a Puritan or anything. I just, thank you guys. I'm really happy to see all of you like enjoying this. I wasn't sure if you would enjoy it. I wasn't sure if I was just a bit too angry. Captain Buggy, my only input irrelevant of the topic, it's a debate. Be bloodthirsty, don't be nice, and when people don't say coherent, call them out and insult them. It's from YouTube chat. Thank you. Do you think it's jealousy? Not really. Love you, sweetie Peak. I love all of you guys. Look, this was fun. You just had to tell him that coercion is always wrong. But that's the thing, right? Coercion is always wrong, fundamentally, but it's not always avoidable. And that's where I lost him, is that yes, coercion is wrong, but at the moment it's not avoidable, and we should work to fix that. We should build systems that make coercion more difficult, which, like, as I said, In New Zealand, when they had this program in 2000, I believe it was 9. Let me double check when that passed actually, just because I don't have it on the current list of notes that I have. Prostitution reform 2003. Okay, so in 2003, when this passed, this decriminalized sex work in brothels and increased the ability for them to, like, the sex workers to be able to call the police, to be able to report to their boss. But what I couldn't get to in the debate, because I wasn't allowed to say it, is that it's not just the women who can report. People are lazy. All people are lazy. People don't like to put in effort for little gain. A person who is not a base sadist won't resort to just assault to the woman immediately. The first instinct would be to complain to somebody. I will always remember this man as a whole. Thank you, GNN Alex. But like, eating, other people can be in the middle. There's a mediator. You can complain to the manager. You're not gonna like instantly start wailing on this person if they're working in a facility that has, I don't know, government funding. It kind of feels like that might stop a lot of people from instantly going that route and maybe trying to complain first. Any questions from any of you? Feel free to like throw them in. I'm happy to. It's just all of this is about small. This really is a microcosm of Democrats. I'm arguing here for incremental change in the right direction versus no, this is not perfect and it's still immoral, so no change. It's just a microcosm of Democrats.